Alrighty, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining on this wonderful Smudcast number 45. And we're talking about a new YouTuber we've never covered before. He's a small guy, so give him some love. I don't think there's anything disrespectful or crazy or overtly negative from Eyebrow Cinema. He seems like a nice guy. And he's kind of like on our side. He's like, yeah, I really disliked when bad stuff happened to movies or games or this, but the ending result of changing it probably won't benefit us. And I would say, well, if the point is to change it into something good, then of course it would benefit you. And the way we look at stuff like, say, the ending to Mass Effect 3 or The Last Jedi is we say this is a bad thing. And if you take out the bad and replace it with something good, then you should be fine. Now, of course, the argument comes up what is good, what is bad. But that is an easy answer for any fan of any of franchise or fandom that they actually enjoy. They'll give you a textbook answer. Star Wars is lightsaber duels and spaceships and high adventure, and that's pretty much what you need. You need heroes, you need villains, clear cut, understood things. You don't need some introspection into what if a hero stopped being a hero and whatever else came out of Ryan Johnson's head. You want clear, understood themes, set pieces, conflicts, characters. The hero's journey would be a good start. And what to do with all that money? I don't know. Practical effects, a mix of CGI, you name it, and you got yourself a decent looking space opera. So you better live up to the lore of whatever franchise you're in. And sadly, we didn't get that in a lot of cases. The YouTuber in question will talk about several examples, including the Snyder Cut. So there's plenty to go over here. And with me, I have Dunn and Shiny. And thanks for joining. I'm sure you guys have lots of examples of film or games or stories that you yourselves are really sad over. Like, if they just changed that, it would be perfect. Or if they just got rid of all this chapter 17, I think we'd be happier as a result.
Yeah. Uh, with Game of Thrones, it's not even just like which is my most hated media, like the ending is on the final season. They just spent ridiculous amounts of money in the wrong places. Like they made a staircase that cost $10,000 that they only used for 2 seconds. They could have easily used CGI.
That's crazy. I've never even heard of that. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the budget of Game of Thrones just because it's been going on for so long and you saw the number of extras and the scope of the sets. You're like, that's got to cost a few hundred million over the years.
Well, well,
Sorry?
well,
Hey, you're cutting out.
You are totally cutting
well,
out. Like zero.
doing this? Why is it doing this?
We can hear you now. Whenever
Okay.
you're angry, you're good.
Maybe I just need to have it sit closer to my face, or it's like in the commentary, they often device boasted about how much money they wasted on just stuff that only showed up for a few seconds, like the docks at the end, staircase, and their department managers are saying, "Are you insane? This will cost a ton of money. Why?" And like they turn around and say, "Oh, we didn't have enough CGI budget for the dire wolves." It's like wasted $10,000 on a staircase that was on screen for 2 seconds and to have a CGI budget, or you would say,
I would imagine the scope and scale of a franchise or a show like Game of Thrones is magnitudes higher than most video games. I would imagine most movies as well, just because it's went on for so long. So you would
um,
think that they got better over time with saving money.
yeah, it's well. The problem is David Benioff with scale and he things to be around in it.
know, but we'll find out if you could sound a little better. Either way, we're going to start right now. Let's see what we got with Mr. Eyebrow Cinema.
3, their much anticipated conclusion to a trilogy of action RPGs. Early positive reviews soon gave way to a far more venomous anger, as fans reached what was widely derided as a wholly disappointing conclusion. To get into the specifics of why this ending was so hated would involve really diving into the minutiae of the Mass Effect world, but there were two main sources for disappointment. The first was that BioWare had ended its fun, Star Trek-style sci-fi romp in a dark and confusing haze of misery. And second...
No, it was a confusing mess of illogic and where your choices don't amount to anything. They pretty much enumerated all your choices into a scoring system. So let's say you saved an entire alien species that promised to help you in the fight against the Reapers, and it doesn't matter if you save them or not, which was arguably one of the biggest choices in the whole game, the whole series. And they always get captured or brought back to life by the Reapers and become their slaves. So, yeah, shitting over the first game and the big choice there was not a very happy moment for most gamers. And that's one of the things of taking apart a choice and reducing it to nothing. Then there's the complete illogic of 3 Deus Ex Machina devices coming together to explain themselves and doing a horrible job. The plot of one of them, the whole goal of the galaxy, the dropping of plots like the dark matter or dark energy plot, so many other things that amounted to nothing, if not nonsense. And you have a recipe for pissing people off. Then we have the color endings, red, green, and blue. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. Just lots and lots of crap on top of each other that just builds more crap and more hatred. So, not that hard to grasp. You don't need to go into the minutia of it.
That a series which was defined by letting players shape the story ended in virtually the same way for everyone. The only significant difference being which color of explosion you got in the last cutscene. Before long, internet petitions demanded BioWare change the ending. Fan theories argued that the final minutes were really a canonical hallucination and an effort at mind control by the series' villains.
This is when you know you have such a bad story, where one of the worst things you can do in storytelling is say, it was all a dream. And that's when you know, and fans are writing this as a legit theory, which is, again, one of the worst things you can do in storytelling is just say, hey, you know those 20 hours of book you just read? It was all fake. It never happened. It was all in this character's head. And voila. That was the defense of people playing the game. So, hey, yeah, that's probably all just one big cop-out by the Reaper-controlled brain that was Shepard. It's like, there's no evidence of that. And they try to look at minutia to try to explain, yeah, totally, this is all in his head. This is all fake. It's like, okay, sure thing. It's the full extension of buyer's remorse. How far do you go with trying to rewrite something?
Some concerned fans even involved the Federal Trade Commission and the Better Business Bureau. What was called the Retake Mass Effect campaign was alive. I know this because I was there. Come on! I was one of the many fans who felt the disappointing sting of Mass Effect 3's ending, and felt I was owed something better. Granted, I didn't actually do anything other than sign a change.org petition and watch some YouTube videos, but I was very much of the opinion that we fans who had invested so much of our time and passion into shaping the Mass Effect story deserved a proper ending.
And that's, I think, the same opinion we've heard from people who watch Game of Thrones. They spent 8 years watching this series, reading the books, going to cons, doing all this wonderful fan art and fan fiction. And what do they get out of it? A pile of crap at the end, essentially. I'm not even aware what happened exactly at the end. I know there's something called the Clegane Bowl, and someone lit the town on fire. So it's like, oh yeah, it's probably not cool. Probably not a very good ending.
Quick aside, but the night I beat Mass Effect 3 was the same night I watched Ratatouille for the first time.
Okay.
And I remember sitting there trying to be grumpy
We're pausing the video, guys. Do you guys know where you are?
about Mass Effect, but at the same time also sitting there trying to be grumpy about Mass Effect.
Okay, who's pausing the video, guys? Anyone in particular? Devil is here. I just can't hear you guys. What's going on? If you guys are talking, I cannot hear you. Let me see if I can change the region.
In a
Hey.
sense, with how you know, especially with video games, with how long you play them, and how much time you'll spend playing the games.
I mean, if let's see here. I mean, if you go buy something, right? If you buy a cell phone, if you buy a piece of equipment, you buy a new car, you're expecting it to be good, expecting it to at least work. I don't think it's entitlement to pay tens of thousands of dollars for a new car and complaining when it doesn't run. I don't think that's entitlement. I think you're owed that. So yeah, when you spend, you bought them brand new, maybe $180 for all 3 games together combined, and then you spent maybe to dozens to hundreds of hours in all 3 games combined. Yeah, you're not. It's not entitlement to ask that, the ending to all this epic adventure to be at least adequate. I think you're owed that.
And by adequate or good, we don't mean a happy ending. We don't mean a saccharine or a saccharine sort of romantic thing. No, we want something that makes sense, that summarizes your choices, because that's the point of this series. All your choices amount to something, and most of them either amounted to nothing or just a score on the end of your GUI telling you, oh, you have enough points to get the better ending. And the ending is still an explosion of 3 different colors. Which, why would you want that? What's the point of that?
10 out of 10 investment.
Yeah, never mind the $180. Then there's all the DLCs, all the multiplayer packs, all the not the extended cut, but you can buy more than $60. You can get all these other larger packages of the game that come with all sorts of memorabilia. So it's a money and time investment, and you expect quality. It's kind of like going to a steakhouse and getting a burger. Not to say the burger will be bad, but you want a high quality of cut that you expected the last time you were there. And instead you get ground chuck. You're like, ugh.
Yeah, I don't think it's entitlement to, when you order a steak at a steakhouse, for it to be, prepared properly. I don't think it's entitlement to ask for, medium rare, get well done, and then you complain about it. I don't think it's entitlement to get something and it's covered in sugar or something like that instead of salt, or it just tastes awful. It's like old expired meat. I don't think it's entitlement to want something at least adequate when you pay the money for it.
Right. And this is the difference between something not that we just simply dislike, but actual problem, an actual error, something you should not have gotten. This is like, again, ordering a steak and getting a hamburger. It's still beef, but it's not the same quality. Now, the other argument is like, well, it's not even beef. This literally is a pile of shit. This is something no one would ever eat anyway. What is it doing in this supposedly great series? Like the last season of Game of Thrones. I think everyone that I've ever talked to about this topic hated it. There was nothing there they liked, which is strange because you would think that some action or some scope, like just the majesty of the cinematography and the music, but there were entire episodes where there was no music. There was no majesty or beauty. It was all just things on fire and people dying, and you're like, that's not exactly what you were expecting.
But at the same time also being enchanted by this rat becoming a gourmet chef. This notion of fan entitlement was not invented by Mass Effect, nor is it unique to the internet age. Instances of fan outcry go to at least as far back as 1893, when Sir Arthur Conan Doyle killed off Sherlock Holmes. All manner of Annie Wilkes behavior has been exerted since then, over everything from who should play Scarlett O'Hara to lamenting the...
Wait a minute, you didn't even explain that. You just kind of tossed that little fact in there. The Sherlock Holmes thing. Yeah, Arthur Conan Doyle was kind of tired of writing Sherlock Holmes, so he gave him a grand death, at Reichenbach Falls. and he wanted Sherlock Holmes to stay dead. In fact, England went under a literal case of mourning. Like, people wore black and mourned Sherlock Holmes' death as if he were a real person. He became like kind of an English icon, a bohemian icon specifically, and people loved Sherlock Holmes, and they kept pestering him to bring him back because they loved him so much. And Arthur Conan Doyle tried other things, but no one really wanted to read his other stuff. They just wanted to read Sherlock Holmes. So he eventually, begrudgingly, went back to Sherlock Holmes. And first of all, he did like a soft comeback with, I think, Hound of the Baskervilles. I think so. I think it was that one. I think that was the case of the empty house. I forgot which one it was, but it was a Sherlock Holmes adventure set after his death. But it was like a prequel or something. It was like it was an adventure that took place before he died, and then eventually, yeah, it was Hound of the Baskervilles. Hound of the Baskervilles. That was it, and it was one of those. And then after that, he eventually, Arthur Conan Doyle was like, okay, fine, I'll bring back Sherlock Holmes. I'll bring him back. Fine, whatever. You win. It's not fan entitlement. It's we want to read Sherlock Holmes. You really want to read anything else you have to say. It was up to Arthur Conan Doyle because he wanted to continue writing.
Right, and we look at where it was published, and the publisher pretty much was like, okay, well, you finished writing for The Strand. Thanks for your work. And then all the people that signed up for the subscription to The Strand stop buying The Strand. So, and this took about 10 years for Doyle to come back and say, okay, fine, I'll write some more.
Yeah, it took a while.
And it wasn't this entitled area. Like, there was nothing bad about that. Was it The Final Solution or The Final Problem? I can't remember the last, like, that was like the second chapter.
It was The Final Problem.
The Final Problem.
Not The Final Solution.
Right. And he wrote it, and it was like, great. And it ended on a high note, and that was that. There was nothing bad about, because obviously Doyle can really write. And then all these people wanted more and more and more. And the publisher was like, this dude, you got to give him more. You're going to make a lot of money. You're popular. And he ended up writing off like 50 more stories, like almost twice as much as he originally wrote. So I'm glad that happened because we got better work. We got better art. We got more art. One of the most canonical, well-known detectives in detective fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And it spawned other things. And that's how I learned about that guy who now is writing for Picard, because he wrote another version of an old Sherlock Holmes. Like, he's 89. I think it was called The Final. Was it called The Final Solution? It's one of those. It's very similar.
And there's one, the one where the final problem. I think that's the one where he faces Moriarty.
Right. This is Michael Chabon, though. Like, he did his own version of that, but much later on.
I know Mr. Holmes. I know that movie.
Yes.
That was with Ian McKellen. I really like that movie, actually.
Anyone can write Sherlock Holmes now because it's past the date of publication, which is like 1893 or something. So anyone can try their luck at detective fiction and write Sherlock Holmes. Why not? So this is a good thing.
King Arthur, gone through the way of King Arthur and Beowulf in the public domain.
Right,
It's cheap as hell to make.
Exactly.
And it just remains a tradition that you get the approval of the Doyle estate if you want to write Sherlock Holmes fiction. You don't have to, but it's kind of like it's tradition, but you don't have to.
It's a nice thing to do. So
yeah.
This is a good thing where fans or the marketplace really says, hey, where is this thing I really like? We've never had anything like this before. We want more of it. And they bring it back. So that's just a matter of supply and demand. It has nothing to do with, oh, that last episode of Sherlock was horrible. Oh my God, do an entire 5 more seasons. It's like, no, it didn't really happen that way.
I mean, the BBC Sherlock? BBC Sherlock was, I mean, I like the first season, I guess. I like the second season a little bit. And then it just went insane. Suddenly they have a sister who has superpowers, and she's super amazing, super special, awesome. She's better than all of them, all the two brothers combined. And she's not really just smart. She has literal superpowers. Like, she's Hannibal Lecter on crack. It was ridiculous. I was like, what is this? What are you showing us?
It was kind of a lot to swallow. Euros Holmes is kind of insane. Like, she breaks the world in a lot of respects.
You know, I was what alarm bells are ringing in my head? Mary Sue alarm bells. That was ridiculous.
Only she's a bad guy, not a main character.
Yeah, she's a villain Sue.
Yeah,
It's
she's
called the villain
also-
Sue.
I never
kinda
got
like-
past
kinda like-
second season, I think.
Don't. Don't.
It
There's
did-
nothing- there's nothing worth watching in the third season. Not really.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, aside from Sherlock and Watson getting drunk on a stag do, and
That
trying
was
to solve-
that,
trying
that's
to
like the
solve
only thing
case
worth it.
pissed.
Yeah, that was really funny. That was funny. I would recommend
Also, hello.
that being the only thing. I also
Hey,
get like a
boys.
dubstep version of the Sherlock
That
Holmes
was
theme.
fun. It's kind of bullshit how Sherlock sort of tells two stories on John's wedding night that happen to relate to a murder that's happening in the room right now, and he didn't even realize until he told both stories, and then he was like, "Wait a minute."
Yeah, apparently the murderer stabs the guy without them knowing it, and then they take off their belt and they die.
It was like a very fine blade pushed through their abdomen, and the wound was held together until the commanding officer, whatever he was, took his belt off, and then the wound opens up and he bleeds to death.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, there were some good episodes I recall, but it did get a little silly, and I honestly cannot remember when I stopped watching because I just went, "This is just too silly for me." And
What happened in season 4 again? I forget. Aside from the super sister who was in a mental institution.
It just gets worse. Actually, he's just Sherlock. It just gets worse. Like it just he dies. Like he does the what was it called? The Reichenbach fall,
Yeah.
and he comes back and kind of goes downhill from there.
Mm.
Once Sherlock Holmes falls off that building, the best of the series is already kind of passed.
I do like the wedding episode because it's kind of silly. I think the final episode to season 7's all right, though I don't remember the villain like at all.
I do like the modern spin on things. I'm just very, very cautious of how, because obviously it's not going to be.
I'm gonna
Oh, go ahead.
honestly, I prefer the film with Robert Downey Jr.
I've never seen it. I haven't seen any of them.
And Robert Downey
It's
Jr.
kind-
films, they're very exciting. They're very American.
It's kind of silly. A lot of things explode, which isn't a Sherlock Holmes film. But
Like I said, very American. They Americanized it.
it's a very American. But actually, I think Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock works surprisingly well. And I prefer the second one more than the first because I prefer the film's version of Moriarty. Moriarty in the show is just like a cartoon character. He's trying
like
to
Moriarty in the show.
too hard to be this crazy, wacky, intelligent guy. Whereas I forget who plays Moriarty in the film, but he's very ruthless and cold.
He's a guy from Mad Men. He's actually in Mad Men.
Yeah.
He's
Mad Men.
got that aura that he's not like the Joker. He's more like complete control all the
Lex
time.
Luthor type.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like about that movie was it got kind of crazy. But the thing about that movie was they killed off Irene Adler and they replaced her with some Romani lady. I don't know. You kill off Irene Adler? Like why? Why would you ever do that? Ever?
Yeah, that's strange. I remember Moriarty in the books. I think he was only in 2 stories and mentioned in a third, and that was it. Like he was a very minor character. So
Yeah, he was the main Sherlock's main nemesis, but only because Sherlock Holmes had to like fight his syndicate and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah. But in the film, it's Moriarty is trying to put what was he? Essentially, the plot is he's trying to cause World War II. Is it World War II to happen early, or is it World War One?
I think it was
Because-
World War One, which was a lot. Was why the film was
It's his-
kind of iffy with some historians because they had like automatic weapons already.
Yeah, but his syndicate is already into like sort of the weapon industry and all that. So he's trying to push World War One to happen. But he knows it's going to happen, and war is going to be militarized on a massive industrial scale, and he wants to be part of that kind of thing.
Here's a super chat from Ernie. I know I've been waiting to get to you. Ernie Velveeta. What didn't they just use the same format as Dragon Age Origins? The DAO epilogue was amazing. Hell, it was downright exhaustive, and I loved it. comparing Dragon Age to Mass Effect is what every BioWare fanboy tends to do. It's like, why couldn't they have this character from this series and put him over there, or that sort of thing. The evolution of the dialogue wheel. Dragon Age was in development a lot longer. They didn't develop the wheel yet. Lots of reasons. And then they brought in Dragon Age 2, which brought in multicolors and stances like purple and blue and red. And they changed it up even more with icons and Dragon Age Inquisition. They keep changing the dialogue wheel, whereas in Mass Effect they kept it really relatively the same. So, yeah, for a game all about choices that use such mechanics like the dialogue wheel, I guess they wanted to keep it the same for Mass Effect, and they mixed it up a lot with Dragon Age because of the nature of the story, and they were more experimental and that sort of thing. So, yeah, hard to say how those two play off each other exactly because they're structurally the same. They have different mechanics, though.
I played Origins and I played Mass Effect 1 so far. Both are very good games. I really enjoyed both of them.
Stop playing.
But very different.
Oh, don't play anything more. You're fine. Keep your memories safe.
No. You need to play all of them.
No.
Especially that, what was it? Andromeda, I believe?
Oh, God.
I heard that was the best in the series.
I think my face is too tired for that one.
Oh.
My face is way too tired for Andromeda. But I just wanted to pause it on that one because he just dropped that like it was this is he tried to sweep that under the rug. Oh yeah, with like Arthur Conan Doyle, we need to stop writing Sherlock Holmes, and that ever since then, and he kind of just left it at that without going into detail about what that little fact meant.
Not exactly comparable to today's arguments that we have.
Yeah, it wasn't entitlement. It was you just want to read Sherlock Holmes, and you're not giving us Sherlock Holmes, so we're not going to read any more of what you have to write. I don't know. It's just it just turned out that way. It's not entitlement. People who are fans of Sherlock Holmes at that time were not being entitled because they like Sherlock Holmes.
Here's a super chat from Alexandra Mosley. Thank you. Cool, you're watching the video I recommended. Actually, this came recommended by many people, and it got sent out to many people on the Smudcast, so we already knew about it. But yes, I think you did directly tell me. And some people put in the suggestions channel. So yeah, everyone knew about it. And we were like, this is cool. No problem. Let's talk about it. All right, let's keep going here. Batman.
Of Mr. Mom's Batman. The internet did not invent the problem, but it did exacerbate it, with fans now able to voice their anger and frustration with great ease and force, often with the benefit.
Oh no, they can tell people how they feel. Oh, what terrible.
Doesn't really change. The methods have changed, but the reaction is no more forceful or not forceful than it was in the beginning.
What a nightmare. Now fans can have a voice, have a louder voice. What a terrible thing.
This is a great thing because you get feedback so quickly on anything.
Feedback is evil these days. You can't be negative in any way these days. Everything has to be great. Everything has to be awesome.
This is why
you're entitled.
This is why my previous video I did about Mass Effect, I talked about how if Mass Effect 2 came out in stages, like every month they released a part or a character, and that would be like version 0.1 and then 0.15, then 0.2 the next month or whatever, that would be probably more effective. It would save a lot of money. It would save a lot of time. They would be making money every month. You could see how far that game would go. And then you have the argument, well, why are all these characters here? What are they going to do? Like, what's the point of all this stuff? And if that's the point of the game, then great. They have a business model. They can keep release. Mass Effect 2 can go on for a decade, however long you want. Have new, like that's what League of Legends is. League of Legends is just a game with, I don't even know how many, 150 characters now. I haven't played it in years. And all they're doing is pumping out a new character, changing the meta, changing how all the game works. And that's their business model. If that's what you want, then great, do it. But because we have this style of game, which is basically the chapter 2 of a trilogy, and you expect to release it in that way, and you have to wait for feedback, and then you wait for patches, and you wait for DLC patches, which are essentially it's like a shadow patch. Like it comes with fixes that you didn't know you wanted or needed, because you can do that in software. That's the beautiful thing about software. You can actually fix things with software. It's amazing. So the functionality is there to fix things. And that's why we thought that BioWare was playing this mind game with all of us. Like their real intention was to make a shitty ending so you get even more hyped up. And then they would release a free DLC, and then they make this amazing real ending that we were all expecting. So it's a strange scenario, and obviously they weren't doing that. They were pulling things out of their ass. And when you ask them to keep pulling things out of their ass, you just get a bigger and bigger piece of crap as you go through it. So,
Or
It
you
could be said
know,
of Star Wars.
or you know, it's hemorrhoids.
yes, it's many rectal emissions that you can't quite describe properly when it comes to crap. So,
That fans took to the internet to bemoan the ending of Mass Effect 3 was not novel, nor even was the scale and ferocity of the outrage. But what was novel was BioWare's response. Rather than stand by their artistic vision, BioWare announced they would be offering a free expansion to Mass Effect 3 that
okay.
Yes,
criticism-
what they thought of their artistic vision was terrible. Like, objectively, you can pull out all these things. It's like, okay, well, this fucking child came out of nowhere. Well, it's your decisions mean fuck all, because all it does is down a little meter that means fuck all. Means, oh, you can choose between 3 different endings, which are all different colors. Like,
Now
there
also-
are so many arguments out there for why this is objectively terrible, not like completely removing bias. This and the reason why people fought it so hard was because they had love and passion for this. They didn't want the Mass Effect to the final game to go down in history as absolutely god shit fucking terrible.
Yeah, also, you can stick to your artistic vision all you want, but the thing is, this is a video game you're trying to sell to people. Okay, you can't just be selfish 100% and say, "Oh, it's my artistic vision. You guys just have to, suck it up and pay for it." No, it doesn't work that way. Okay, this is commerce. Okay, there's a deal between creator and buyer. Okay, you can't just be 100% selfish in your quote unquote artistic vision. You have to make some. You have to toss me a bone every once in a while. Okay, I'm the guy giving you money for this product. You have to give me a little happiness a little bit. It can't just stick to your artistic guns if I don't like it, especially if it's the ending to your entire trilogy that I have spent hundreds or dozens to hundreds of hours and possibly over almost $200 or more investing in your product. You owe me a little bit because I have given you my time and money. Okay, that's how business works traditionally. But for some reason, because it's video games, or because it's a movie, or because it's a TV series, suddenly it's a take and all give relationship. So the customer has to be all give, and the creator is all take because it's our privilege as the consumer to pay for your product.
It's your privilege to pay $200 to talk to this comic creator.
Yeah, it's our privilege. It's our privilege. The deities of media have granted us the privilege of allowing us to give them our time and money.
Prometheus gave us the fire of knowledge, which is the Last Jedi, and you better be happy with it.
Yeah, you better be happy, or you're a bigot.
Fans have a right to be disappointed in the final outcome if what you create doesn't satisfy.
I think that's kind of one of the.
It's like you wouldn't think it'd be hard to satisfy fans. Because all you have to do is, write a satisfying ending.
How does
And,
3 end again? I've forgotten. You throw yourself
Mass
into
Effect
a ship engine.
Wait, what?
How does Mass Effect 3 even end again? Because I've forgotten.
Oh, so it
Throw yourself
either
into-
ends with yourself throwing into an energy beam, which I assume was the Crucible, and you become every life form in the universe becomes part synthetic, part organic, and all the organics, all the synthetics also become part organic. Fuck knows how that works. You either control the Reapers, or you wipe out all synthetic life. And sometimes, depending, if you don't have the DLC installed, if you are playing the original ending with the worst cut, everyone dies.
Great.
Everyone just dies. It's great. No, fuck everyone.
The funny thing about what the YouTuber just said was that they didn't stick to their artistic integrity. It's like they doubled down on it. All they did when they released the extended cut was do more of exactly what they did originally. Just more of it. They expanded a bit more. They had more exposition, which I'd say 30 to 40% of it was helpful because you had to know what the hell was going on. But they added stuff that didn't make it made even worse ideas. Like you call in help to your I don't know, your friend gets injured, your companion gets injured, running to the beam, and Harbinger, this giant 2-kilometer alien staring you down with death lasers, and you sit there for a good minute saying goodbye to your squad mate while he's not targeting this giant spaceship. You're like, okay, why does he just stare? Because he's just like nuking people instantly as they're running towards this elevator, this space elevator thing. And it's just all this extra crap. So they didn't actually fix anything. They just gave, we have another month to work on the ending? Yay, let's call everyone back to work and let's make a better, bigger endinger. It's like, no, you did exactly the same thing, just more of it.
Didn't you want more of the same thing? I thought you were some kind of fan, do you? If you're a fan, surely you should just like what they give you.
Yeah, it's kind of strange when you ask for something of quality and they give you a bigger hamburger. It's like, wow, the hamburger's twice as big now. The thing I didn't want. That's great.
It's twice as shit, and it's twice as big, and it's still got the same amount of ratio of shit in it.
Right, and you hear the fans like, you gave me my ending with Caden. I said goodbye to him. It's like, that's not why we have endings. Here's a super chat from Dead Slash. This is talking about the show Sherlock. Moffat lost it on Sherlock. I think that's the producer or the director. And Doctor Who at the same time. You're right. I think he was also the director of Doctor Who. I ended up liking Elementary.
I wouldn't say.
Elementary is a fantastic show. I was watching it when it first came out. I was a little iffy about it. The first few episodes, I was like, this is actually not bad. I never got into it. And then years later, I started watching it again. And it was very well done. Lucy Liu
I was meaning to get into it.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Yeah, it's not amazing. It's just very good.
Yeah, Moffat, he did go insane. I don't know what happened to him. I think he got full of himself because he was praises are just being heaped on the guy. I think he tried to do more and more stuff, and he kind of fell into that trap of writers trying to write stories that are more complex and kind of more clever than they actually are. It's just basically he got into the territory just trying to show off. It didn't really work too well, but he went insane. He went narratively insane.
Drunk with power on a TV show.
Both.
Yeah, the Doctor Who, the Moffat. It's very strange because he made some of the best episodes, Don't Blink.
But then he went mad and made the most complex, convoluted shit I've ever heard.
So okay, so we have the silence. So first we start off with the mystery of the cracks in time. And it's like, what are these? What could they possibly be? Oh, they're an exploding TARDIS. Oh, okay, that's interesting. And then it's dropped. And then there's the silence. Now they're being revealed. Oh, so they're possibly the ones behind the crack. And then it goes nowhere. So nothing happens with the silence. And then it's trying for this big overall story over the entire era of Matt Smith's episodes, but it goes nowhere really. It's really unplanned and it's messy. They tried to explain it in Matt Smith's final episode of the silence were trying to stop the Doctor before he would create this war, and that's even more confusing because we need to stop a war, so let's destroy the universe. It's like, what do you mean destroy the universe? Yeah, let's destroy it. It's like, that'll stop the war. It's like, you're fucking apparently supposed to be priests. Why the silence priests? If they're priests, why the fuck are they killing everyone?
Imagine an underlying storyline to a Doctor Who series that went nowhere. Bad Wolf.
Bad Wolf didn't go nowhere.
Yeah, it did. What happened to that?
Bad Wolf. It was a message that Rose sent back in time for herself to follow.
For what?
At least they explained it.
At least Davies followed up on his stuff. Davies didn't follow up on his
Torchwood. So, like, the first season of the revival was a bad wolf, and I don't know why she left messages back in time for herself, because that is what ended up motivating her to go back to the Doctor, because it was a connection between
What does it
her and
fucking
him
mean?
somehow. I don't know. It wasn't very well explained, but at least it was better than the fucking cracks in time that went nowhere. And then
That's
with Torchwood, you had the establishment of Torchwood, and then you had like the reveal of Torchwood at the end of the season, the second season.
I think Gaddis and Moffat, I think they both went together and they made the new series on Netflix called Dracula, which ended with an apparent victory for the good guys, quote unquote, because she proved at the end that Dracula actually didn't have any weaknesses. That he wasn't actually weak to the sun and or holy water or anything of that stuff. That he was just awesome. They could walk around the sun no problem. And apparently that means he lost. That's how it.
Yeah, Moffat had he made Doctor Who like really, it was really fantasy and really like he's trying to act really clever. It's like, oh, the Doctor died 10,000 times because he didn't want to let up the information on the Dalek Time Lord hybrids. It's like, wait, what? And it wasn't even. It's like he doesn't even know anything about it in the first place. Why did they think he knew anything?
And then of course,
why would that
run
be?
around and say I'm millions of years old? It's like I preferred it when you actually gave a specific age that was implausible.
Yeah, so like originally he's 900 years old when the revival comes, and then all of a sudden, like Matt Smith, he's like
he was like
1,500 or something. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Capaldi is like nearly 2. I can't remember all these fucking times. I just remember there's a huge jump in between that we just don't see.
What I don't understand with that is, you remember in Matt Smith's stuff when, like, his final episode, he defends the village from alien attacks for like 100 years or something like that, and he gets old and die. Like he was going to die of old age, kind of thing. How come when it got to Peter Capaldi's thing, he's in that constant cycle in the castle grounds, but he doesn't age at all, even though every time he dies he goes back to the processor after he's aged a couple days and plugs himself back into the processor to be revived, but his age remains the same at the moment he got caught, but he's like a billion years into the future. He would have aged a day each time.
Well, now you're thinking about things. Like, because also there's that ocean of skulls as well.
And it's just, it never fills up with skulls.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
like thousands of lifetimes there.
It's like a castle, and he's being chased by this entity that can't be stopped. And every time he gets caught, when he's punching the ice wall, he gets caught, but he doesn't die. He's able to limp back to the process thing, plug himself back in, and then he like resurrect himself from the moment before he got caught. But he still ages.
But it was really stupid. Because it's all because he could have just said he didn't know anything about the fucking hybrids, and then he would have been let out.
Welcome to the Smudcast. In case you're joining us, there's two British blokes talking about some sci-fi show the rest of us haven't seen.
Well, LiteratureDevil's seen it.
A show that started off from there, then got and then went.
I've seen a few episodes of Doctor Who, including the last episode of Matt Smith, episodes here and there of Lear in that particular. Don't know very much about it.
Yeah, Eccleston and David Tennant were the best. Let's move on.
Yeah.
That seems to...
Well, I'll just take your word for it and move on, because I'm not sure what to say.
I don't know. I'm just listening to the exchange and attention.
Right.
I forgot to turn on the comments. I don't know what the hell everyone's saying. God damn it, let me look. Everyone's just saying Brit fight. Brit fight.
Okay, let's keep going.
The ending. By June, the extended cut was released. It took Doyle a decade to bring back Sherlock Holmes. BioWare relented in 3 months.
Really?
That's not...
Really? Are you serious? He's making that comparison? You know, Doyle's like in the 1900s, right? Things go a little faster in modern Europe.
Not a team of writers.
Yeah, this is a whole company. This is a company's one of the company's flagship series.
How is this an argument?
So dumb.
It is.
Yes, one man
no way comparable are these things.
Yes, one man cannot be as efficient in writing as a team of 200. You are correct.
From 100 years ago.
Where he had to actually write everything down with pen and paper.
Not to mention, there's a difference between writing a book and, writing and making a DLC, which mostly uses, reused assets, and it's mostly just extra dialogue and maybe a handful of things.
It's basically a few hundred people working together to make a piece of media.
No, but everything's already there for the game. Like, cause you've already got the game engine, you've already got the characters, you already got the sets, you've already got that and this, that, and the other.
Also, what's the argument exactly? That BioWare should have taken 10 years to
Yes.
the fans?
No, they should have rewritten the entirety of Mass Effect 3, and I would have been happy with that.
People
Just
would buy it.
rewriting the entire game.
People would buy it.
Yep.
Yeah, no
I
question.
just don't understand this modern demonization of companies who try to sell to fans, appealing to fans. Like, how dare Sonic listen to fans and change the design of the character? How dare the HBO Max release a Snyder Cut? They're being bullied into it by fans. How dare Mass Effect 3 listen to fans and then give them an extended ending? How dare they? Is this guy communist also? Is hate capitalism? It sounds like he does.
It's a hard argument to swallow, but if I had to write an ending for The Rise of Skywalker and it was just me, and Smud had a team of 200 to write a better ending, I think it's fair to say who's going to finish their work first.
Well, I'd whip everyone into shape, so I'd probably finish first, but that's just me.
Yeah. Retarded argument.
Yeah, I think, and also like with the Sonic thing, it's not even really like just Sonic fans. It's like people in general who don't even like Sonic. This is hideous shit.
And that's pure CGI. That's something which is in software is fixable. So things like video games are you can update a video game. You could add things. You could fix bugs. You could add features. You can refine them. That's the whole point of software.
Make their money back?
What was that?
Did the people behind the Sonic movie still make their money back?
I'm sure
Yeah,
they did.
it was one of the
really
most
well.
highest grossing video game movies, wasn't it? Yeah.
It did really, really well.
Dude,
But also things. Yes, whoever this guy is, Fan Entitlement and Quick Fix, whoever this guy is, Eyebrow Cinema. Yeah, things change in 100 years. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah,
The
to
extended
write it
cut
all down.
really changed the ending, so much as it added more context and fleshed out plot points that were unclear. But the precedent
true,
had been
Smud?
set.
It added more stuff, but it made things worse. Like it fleshed some stuff out and then added crap on top. So you're like, oh, look, this piece of crap makes more sense. Here's another giant piece of crap we're not going to explain. And you're like, oh, great. So yeah, as I said, 30 to 40% of it helped the story, but it came with a whole bucket load of other problems. So
Why is Big Ben in the Pentagon?
this is London, I hope,
Okay.
in the future.
We're
Future
still
London.
how everything's future buildings, but Big Ben's still the same tower. as it's been.
Oh, God,
yeah. So I have a question. So
Ben?
the River Thames, isn't that supposed to like go past that there? And what about that? Okay, so they said, oh fuck the fucking Houses of Parliament. We're gonna leave Big Ben. Okay. the building which is attached to Big Ben, the one that currently isn't there, and you seem to have just put Big Ben there and forgot about the massive river that goes next to it, and London Bridge.
They didn't put Big Ben there. How would we know it was England if they didn't put Big Ben there?
How would you know it was England if you didn't put fucking 4-meter tall phone boxes?
Invincible, indestructible red phone boxes.
Just put
they were huge. They were the size of a building. Like, you remember? Why did they make such huge phone boxes? The just funny thing is that they're not even that. Today, there's not many around. Hell, you can go to a scrapyard and you can see fucking loads of those things.
It's like okay, I'm going to be hyperbolic, but no film has ever got the geography of London right. I'm just saying. Like Spider-Man Far From Home, where they fly to London and you see the White Cliffs of Dover. So yes, they're in England. They're coming to London, but then the next shot in London, they fly over the Tower of London, which means they're coming from the north, not the south. So they flew around London just to get to the center of London.
Logic.
No film has ever got the geography of London right. It's just too weird and complicated. It's not like a layered grid system like which makes sense. It's just everything on top of everything.
Yeah, it's because it's been around for so long. So I had a chance to talk to with the visual effects supervisor from Industrial Lights and Magic London, and he worked on Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home, and when they had to do the geometry. So another thing they worked on was the Avengers films, but what they were doing was they would build the city backgrounds. And what they did for those is that they had to build giant portions of New York, in visual effects. So lots and lots of time went into making sure the geography of New York was correct. It was like, London, forget it. Nah, who needs it?
Yeah, the best thing we get are the, as you said, the phone boxes, the Big Ben. We're actually the guy on the right. We call it Captain Fish and Chips because he has a fake British accent, and he plays the voice actor, or he plays Hawk, who's the same voice actor in Dragon Age 2. So,
well, hello, Governor.
Yeah.
Hey, Governor, what's this about?
Yeah, your typical British man going around.
I'm just a sniper. He was in the advertisement. He's in Big Ben sniping husks. With
I have a question. Why Big Ben? So you can tell it's London again. It's just so they can tell it's London. There's no rhyme or reason. Okay, so there's any other building you could try that is A, higher, and B, less of a target than Big Ben. I'm pretty sure the Reapers are just gonna fucking knock that thing over pretty easily. I think staying in any kind of big, tall building is going to be fucked.
Yeah, there's no reason why they chose London that we know of.
Also, how is Big Ben still there? How? A fucking Reaper invasion leveled London.
Was there was there a scene in America where they had a soldier with an automatic and he's eating apple pie and stuff? Was that over there? Wearing American flag as a cape? Was it?
They should have gone to Canada and said, "Hey, here's some poutine."
Well, they did have one in Vancouver, but it's how do you? What I guess the first part of the game, it's because everything's getting destroyed. It's is this Vancouver? It looks like a giant war zone. What's the difference? So
I guess even the bad guys love Big Ben. They don't want to destroy it.
I don't know. Here's a super chat from Alexandra Boosley. Sonic 2 is confirmed. Wouldn't have happened if they didn't redo the design. And I actually agree, because there was a huge outcry for that change. Everyone loved the change with the second trailer, and people obviously went to go see it. So great. Bravo.
The initial design was atrocious. It was pure nightmare fuel.
It was hideous. It was the only thing that was worse was cats.
It was very meme-worthy. It was just atrocious.
It's but at least cats. At least cats made no money.
Yeah. Here's Ernie Velveeta. when I said format, I was talking about epilogue to Mass Effect 3, not the dialogue wheel. Instead of giving us slides with context, they just give us slides. Yeah, that's another thing. It's basically a giant PowerPoint presentation ending. So instead of actually getting proper exposition of what happened with each faction and each character, you get a picture of them. It's like, here's the entire Krogan civilization. Oh, look, they're on a shuttle. It's like, what? Really? All of them? Here's Miranda. She's talking to her sister. It's like, oh, and here's Jacob. He's standing. It's like, who cares about Jacob? Like, why are you even showing us this character? There's so much stuff in the ending where they just thought it would be nice without actually giving us reasons why. Like in this scene, this is probably the destroy ending, because if it was the green ending, the synthesis ending, they'd all have these green little veins popping out of their necks.
Yeah, it's another thing. I remember this as well because this is Hackett's speech on the destroy ending. And you can see Hackett's line there. This victory belongs to each of us, every man, woman, and child, every civilization, every world. What the fuck did children do to earn this victory?
It's really strange. So you're left with this post-nuclear synthesis, if you went that route, ending, or you're left with a post-nuclear destruction where all technology is gone, or you're left with Shepard is now Lord Emperor of the galaxy.
God. Yeah,
I'll take that one. That sounds good to me. Of those three endings, that sounds the best for the Shepard I would be playing. Yeah,
I never really understood the control ending because obviously there's so if you're Paragon, then you become a Guardian, but okay, if you're a Renegade, then you become an Overlord.
Something like that.
Okay, nothing in between.
It's just you're completely unrelated to everyone, or you're crushing everyone who even does something wrong.
Oh yeah, and your fucking character's dead. It's like, oh, I am. It's like he or she is talking about themselves, like they're no longer alive. Despite like, I shall remember the person I was. It's like, what? Aren't you the same person? I mean, you were just uploaded. I mean, if I uploaded myself, I would be the same person. You're still using their face. Okay. No, you're not putting any thought into this bio? Okay.
Yes, you get a bunch of, again, slideshows of like, oh, a bunch of Reapers are repairing the mass relays. A bunch of Reapers are prancing around on a planet and indoctrinating them and mind controlling them in a good or bad way. We don't know. All these dumb things, like that raises so many more questions. Like, is this a good thing? What exactly did you choose? It's sad.
If the fans cry loudly enough, creators will have to address them.
No.
That's because we are the customers.
They don't have to do anything.
They don't have to. They just want to make money, so they will.
Yeah, they don't have to, but if they expect to sell this product to the customers, yeah, I mean, it depends on, do they want to sell and make money or not?
It's they don't have to by any means. But if what this outcry is like, look, we're not happy. If we'll give you money to fix this, and they're like, oh, they'll pay to fix this. Okay, let's do that, guys. It's like the reason why they're releasing the Snyder Cut is because people wanted it and they were going to pay money for it. And it's like, oh, if they're going to pay money for this, then we've got an audience. We can sell this.
Which is similar to, well, not similar to DB Weiss and David Benioff, because they were like, hey, can you fix this? And they said nothing. They did not respond one way or the other. There was that giant poll or change.org petition to get it redone. Nothing came of that. So obviously HBO was like, hey guys, you want to do this again? And they said nothing. So, and I'm sure HBO would be like, hey, you want to make some more money? They'd love the idea. You want to keep doing it? We'll do 10 more seasons of Game of Thrones. What the hell do we care? It'd be great. So if there's a market for it, you're going to get something.
Which was weird because both the author and the studio were like, do this for longer. Like the guys were like, on a life, we want to go ruin Star Wars too. They're utterly inept as filmmakers. They don't even qualify as writers.
Sure enough, we've seen the echoes of retake Mass Effect throughout the decade in pop culture. Whether it's online movements to release mythologized director's cuts, or petitions to have divisive works stricken from canon and remade, the demand to fix perceived mistakes with popular franchises has become a common response to a fandom's disappointment.
Good.
Sorry,
Because they are
Paul, this is all
objectively
wrong.
bad.
What?
You'll have to do it over again. It's not worthy of you. Throw it all out.
The most extreme version of
Okay, comparing us to Misery is a bit.
God.
You know, she's not fans. She's a crazy fan. She's one crazy fan. It's a big difference between Annie Wilkes, who is one solitary insane fan, and a huge fan outcry. Okay, maybe one fan might be unreasonably disillusioned, but a huge outcry, a huge backlash of a majority of the fan base, or a very large portion of it. Big difference there. Maybe you actually did something wrong there. It's like Sonic. The additional design was atrocious, so they fixed it. They benefited in a huge way. Maybe sometimes you can listen to fans because the fans know. A majority of the fans know. The fans, because they're fans, have at least a good feel about how the core of the thing that they love should be. Not all of them. There are some Annie Wilkes in the world. But if it's a huge fan outcry, a huge fan backlash, maybe you should take a look at it.
The thing about art is once it's in the public domain, once it belongs there, it belongs to the people. It's sort of their thing, their fandom, their love. They have probably more insight than sometimes the creators do. And you see that with Gaiman, where they know Gaiman so well, and all his stories may be different, but they'll see a pattern that he wasn't even aware of. So they learn things. The same with reading Agatha Christie. You get a flavor for how she writes mystery and who done it and how it works. Yeah, definitely. You pick up on stuff that even the writer isn't aware of. So these things have become ingrained, really, in people's fandom and people's love of media. So when you watch Star Trek, and you watch Discovery or watch Picard, that's not Star Trek. That's not exactly that's not how tricorders work. That's not how starships work. That's not how phasers work, etc., etc. You pick up on things very quickly. And these are the people you should be hiring, not necessarily the fanfic writers who do their own spin, but the people who actually know and follow it, like Simpsons. There's so many Simpsons fans out there that they know every episode and who said what, and they know what makes that show work. Not necessarily the comedy. They may not be comedians themselves, but they know the comedy of the show they love.
They know the atmosphere,
the feeling, how it looks, how it goes, how the pacing of a story. Yeah, they know this. So the
It'll be a
fans
very
know.
dank and depressing day when creators no longer listen to fans and feel like they don't need to make content for them.
The whole point, is to make content for other people aside from the author.
Progress will stop.
You do not write for yourself. You can, but you're ultimately trying to appease the audience. And it's a gift if you are that same audience of that genre.
What is a target market anyway? What is a target market?
You can write for yourself, but if you want to just write for yourself and fulfill your so-called artistic vision, don't then expect to sell it to people. Okay, there's a give and take here, a give and take relationship here, where you as the writer have to make some, you have to keep the audience that you're targeting in mind. If you're targeting towards fantasy readers, sci-fi readers, thriller readers, romance readers, you have to alter the way the story goes to appeal to these fans who are going to, give your work a shot. That's essentially how that goes. It's a give and take. It's not, but now it's evolved into, and this video is a product of this. Now it's an entitlement from the creator, I would say, from the creators these days. The mainstream creators are the ones who are entitled, not the fans, not the people who are investing their time and money into it, and then saying, "Well, I didn't really like it," and then they coming back and saying, "You should like it. Or you're a bigot or something like that." You're like we're obligated to like their work just because they had the privilege, they had the kindness to deliver it onto us from Mount Olympus or something. It doesn't work that way.
I write for myself. I don't write for the fans, and the fans don't show interest, and they grab them by the shoulders, like, "Why aren't you paying attention to what I make?"
Yeah, it's as simple as if people aren't happy with what you're making, they're not going to buy your product. It's an artistic product, but it's a product nonetheless, and a product ultimately has to sell. It is an industry. This is something which your audience is buying, so you can make a living for yourself. And the thing is, you can't make a living for yourself if the people you're trying to sell it to are no longer interested. So you have to make. And what are people usually interested in? Good storytelling, which is why you should usually, put care into your story to make a story which is well loved. And the thing is, we're not asking for, like, at least most people won't. They may be saying, okay, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that, blah 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 blah, and they may say things they wanted, like Luke to be an ultimate badass. But the thing is as long as what you are giving them is good, they're not going to care where it's not that what they wanted exactly. Again, I use the analogy of, you order a cookie expecting a chocolate chip cookie, but then you get given a white chocolate chip cookie. As long as it's a good white chocolate chip cookie, you're not going to care that it's not what you were expecting, even though at the time you wanted and expected something else, because there is such a thing as giving someone something they didn't know they want or they didn't expect. And it's so strange because a lot of people keep putting it down to, it's like, oh, you can never appease the fans. Like, you can. You really can. That's what the Mandalorian, as mediocre it is at times, is it has really good episodes and episodes. It appeased a lot of fans. Clone Wars Season 7, the finale, it appeased a lot of fans.
Right.
So it's not impossible. It's not impossible to write something which is well loved that wasn't expected. I didn't know I wanted to see a Mandalorian, going around as a bounty hunter, blah 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 blah. But it was something which was there, and it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, maybe change the attitude from the creator's attitude from feeling entitled that you should be buying and investing and loving their self-indulgent masturbatory session of writing, like Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi, or pretty much anything coming up from the mainstream media these days, and change that attitude from that to, okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk here to something like John Wick. John Wick saw what fans loved from the first movie, and they gave us more in the second movie, and they gave us even more in the third movie. They gave us more mythology. They gave us more continental stuff. They gave us more, conspiracy and background, and more shooting galleries, that sort of thing. They listen to the fans, and they are going strong. The Last Jedi murdered Star Wars. Didn't listen to the fans. Rian Johnson said, I'm going to record my masturbation session, and you're going to love it. You better love it. That's basically what happened, and that's the prevailing attitude of so many of these modern creators. I think the attitude needs to change. It needs to be, okay, I'm going to write something, and I'm going to write it for the fans. I'm going to write it for the people who might be interested in this product. I'm not going to write it just for me. If you want to write it just for you, that's fine. You can fulfill your artistic vision. Just don't expect anyone to buy into it.
They have to make their money back somehow. If they piss off their fan base, are they going to make that money back?
I really like the analogy that Shiny used between the chocolate and white chocolate cookies, because you still want chocolate, but you weren't expecting or knew you were going to get a white chocolate chip cookie, and you go, hey, this is still chocolate. This is a new twist on what I was expecting. And that's pretty much what a story is. It's the same stuff within the same genre. You're going to see a romance movie. Let's go see a new one. I don't know much about it. You go to the theater, and there's a new spin on what makes a romance movie work. That's what you want. A new idea from an old idea with a new perspective that you weren't expecting. So that's it. What should a Star Wars movie be? Everyone knows. What should a Star Trek episode be? Everyone knows. We've seen hundreds. So same idea, different ethical message, different scientific reality or technology. How does that work with the human condition? And make it 45 minutes.
At least so far, is the delayed release of the Sonic movie to redesign the titular character after the first trailer was met with intense mockery. Though some saw the redesign
for good reason
as a victory for fan culture, Others saw the move as yet another ominous sign of how fully franchise filmmaking
Ominous
is going
sign.
to yield to the demands.
Okay, people weren't gonna
You-
fucking watch this thing if they
Deal
did.
before
If it
Zod.
was-
Okay.
If it was a horrific, no, if it was a fucking horrific film, well, with a fucking horrific protagonist, then no one's gonna fucking enjoy this. No one's gonna go out and watch it. It was a huge mistake to try and make it more realistic. Quotation mark.
Hasn't it been approved for a sequel now as
Yes.
Yeah, there's gonna be Sonic 2.
well? That
It's like, oh no, because they changed what they did, they're gonna get a sequel film that they
Oh,
wouldn't
no.
have got before. Oh no!
These
Woe is me.
These
Like,
poor
I'm
movie
actually-
producers, these poor creators, they listened to the fans and made a lot of money. That they're so much money and so much fame, they're going to make a sequel. What a terrible situation.
I don't even.
Again, this is one of
think it's like
the
due to financial gain. I mean, I know that's a part of it, but think of it as an image thing for the company as well. That people go, hey, these audience members are very passionate about what
Yeah.
they do, what they see. They think we can do better. Let's show them we can. Or we go, hey, they think this is crap. We should do better. Yeah, ignore them. I know which one paints a better image.
I think a big problem that a lot of these people is that
We are
don't have we are just making fully grasp that the fan are bread and butter. You make money based on the fan reaction. Fans are down the
All right,
mind
I kind of want to see what else he's going to say about the Sonic film, because there's another couple of arguments that I'm raring to fucking knock out of the park, because I know there's a couple that particularly to visual effects,
Calm down,
and if I
Shiny.
hit them,
You'll get
I'm going
there.
to fucking punch them.
Relax. Get a drink. Relax. Here we go.
Yield to the demands of an angry fandom. And this trend is unique
Okay,
to
so it's fine.
franchises.
No, he doesn't
Much as we
bring
might
up something
debate
that
the
I've
ethics
heard
of
before.
Rodriguez's decision to apostatize, there wasn't demand that Scorsese remake Silence so Rodriguez holds to his religious convictions. Much as some writers have criticized Phantom Thread for potentially endorsing an abusive relationship, those same writers weren't starting Change.org petitions demanding PTA show Alma leaving Reynolds in a sequel. Movies like this are understood as singular works of art, and while
How many decades of legacy those works have? Because you're talking about Star Wars, talking about Mass Effect, talking about the Mass Effect has a series going on. You're talking about all these games that have years behind them and series behind them, and a fan base developed over time. You don't see this about single movies usually, because that's all they are, single works of art. When you're talking about fan bases, you're usually talking about fan bases who follow things like Star Wars and Star Trek and Batman and Superman, and because they know these stories, they know these characters. And while you can have a strong fan base for single pieces of art, the backlash, the huge backlashes you see are generally from these fan bases from properties that have decades of growth and multiple properties underneath the franchise name.
Also, using the Sonic thing is totally not is a valid example of a fan backlash. It seems like that was a general audience backlash.
It's the same with
And,
the series of Sherlock. That's like dozens and dozens of short stories. You expect a certain quality level from the writer of it, and he pretty much delivers on all of them. There's only a few that I didn't really like, but they're all relatively well done. Like, the man's a genius to even write that way. So you expect something, like you get, again, the first episode, Mass Effect, great, fantastic. Second episode, not very great, but good for other reasons. There were reasons to like that thing, even though they weren't related to the main story. And then the third one was kind of a mishmash of the two. So, with the worst ending in existence. But still, like you wanted to get the same level of quality that you were expecting, and you didn't get it. That's all we want, is good stuff, not bad stuff. Not okay. Okay, we can live with. Mediocre's like, they could have done a better job, but it worked. When things don't work, when things don't make sense, when you have holes, when you have almost literal pieces of crap at times, you want things fixed. You send back the dish. Say, I'm not eating here anymore unless you fix this. Because there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other restaurants out there I can go to and spend my time and money with. And that's all it goes down to. People have to realize the same with books. If I don't like this fantasy book by Terry Brooks, I can go to another great author that does it right.
Terry Goodkind. I don't recommend Terry Goodkind. It's highly derivative.
Yes, Brooks is like a watered down Tolkien sometimes. So,
or Terry Goodkind is a legitimate a-hole. Like, he's an ass. Terry Goodkind made fun of his own cover art.
Fantasy authors are a very diverse group of people. Let's just say that.
While that art invites criticism, and even ideas about how it could be better, that criticism doesn't usually shift into entitled demand, at least not on a wide scale. But when a movie or video game is part of a larger brand, it isn't simply a work of art anymore. It's also a corporate product, one which consumers have very specific expectations for. And what do when a product doesn't live up to our expectations?
We don't buy it.
We replace it. There's a
a good example of this is that we stopped watching Star Trek and we started to go. Well, us Star Trek fans anyway. Most Star Trek fans stopped watching Star Trek and they went to the Orville because it's much more like Star Trek than the new ones are.
I don't think it's a specific. It's like trying to paint fans as entitled, I guess, going by the title of the video, but also going by his argumentation here, because he brought up like that nerd guy from SpongeBob and everything, and also the fans have very specific tastes for expectations for the product. No, it's not specific. It's we expect the product. You gave us Picard saying it's Star Trek. It wasn't Star Trek. He's saying Discovery is Star Trek. Is it just good? I haven't seen it, but I've been told it's not. Okay, we were given The Last Jedi, we bought the ticket to go see it. They told us it was Star Wars. It wasn't Star Wars. Rise of Skywalker, that was a mishmash of a tragedy. It was a mishmash of tragedies just kind of stitched together.
So if the quality of the product is low, fans have a right to feel cheated because they put money towards it.
Yeah, it's not entitlement. Okay, we're expecting at least an adequate level product when we purchase it. Okay, same thing goes with the phone. If the phone doesn't work and it's brand new and I just bought it, I have the right to say, "Hey, this doesn't work. Give me my money back or replace it."
Such quest that is basically rendered the existing.
And when it comes to something like Star Wars, there are just certain things you can't write because it handicaps the quality of the writing because it becomes contradictory or very low effort, like the changing of characters' personalities or the changing of how the universe is built. If you wanted to write something like that, you go with a brand new series with brand new characters. But when you're 8 films into an established series, there is a certain consistency you have to keep. Otherwise, the quality of the product goes down and fans have a reason to be unhappy. Because that's their money gone.
That's like I said with the Star Trek and Star Wars. There's so many works out there. There's so many episodes of Star Trek, so many movies of Star Wars, so many properties and games and other TV series of Star Wars that there's kind of a general consistency of quality and how it should feel, how characters should act, how the world goes. That when you deviate from that in a large way, like the modern Star Trek or modern Star Wars have, then it no longer becomes the product. It's no longer the product we're buying into, and so we go away. The fans turn their back on the products. I want to see this guy. I'm really interested, and I wonder if this guy ever bought a car. If you were in a situation where you ever bought a car and it just dies on him 2 miles outside of this dealership, would he really say, "No, that's okay. I'm not going to complain. I'm not an entitled fan. I'm just going to deal with it"? Would he really do that? I don't think so. Especially if it's a new car you pay tens of thousands of dollars for, expecting it to actually work.
There's a fine line between criticism and entitlement. Criticism is about dialogue.
No, there isn't. There's no fine line between criticism and entitlement. Like it's not. not any kind of fine. There's a huge difference between the two.
Yes.
Because one is saying, hey, this is bad because of X, Y, and Z, and the other one is expecting something for, you know, the word entitlement has been used so many times, it's kind of infused the meaning to me, but let me just quickly find the definition.
Well, the idea behind a dialogue is interesting because usually I don't really care about having a dialogue. I just want to say what I believe and what I've observed.
But the act of possessing... What the fuck's sake? This is... Never mind. It's ownership, anyway. I suppose the best way I can put entitlement is some kind of ownership. So there's a difference between feeling like you own Star Wars and criticizing Star Wars. It's not a fine line. It's a huge difference.
Basically, like, it's the difference between this is bad. It's bad. Here are the reasons why. And entitlement is basically, I own this. I am entitled to something better than this. This by nature of purchase. There's a big difference.
Well, the argument back in the day with Mass Effect was that it was this degree of artistic integrity, and you don't have the right to tell an artist what to do. And I'm like, yes, that's true, but the artist who has been established as making a certain product a certain way suddenly breaks off the arms of the Venus de Milo, and you're like, what did you do that for? Why did you even bother? Now, we know the Venus de Milo as being this really, really ancient statue that's lived since antiquity, and it's still standing, which is impressive. But you know what? We really would like to see it with its arms on. We're kind of curious where the arms were located, and what was the intention of the piece, and what was her pose like. You know, we really want to know. So I would prefer to have that Venus de Milo with the arms for the sake of it being its original form. I wouldn't say send it back. I mean, I would like to have it sent back and say, okay, can you repair this? It got, thousands of years ago. It'd be great if we can get that technology to work. But it's still something I'd like to see fixed. I'd like to see what was the original idea behind it. Because obviously, when you remove something from it, it's no longer the same thing. Not to say it's not beautiful in its own right, because that's how the only way we know it. Like, imagine we never knew Mass Effect 3's ending without the extended cut. It was just a pile of crap. It's just a small pile of crap. Now it's a bigger pile of crap. It's like, great, it's still crap. So was the Venus de Milo, was she holding like a big spear with a huge tacky looking shark? I don't think so. What else was there? What was the actual original product? So I would like to see the original one, but not if it's crap.
I think most of us here are anti-vandal.
Yeah.
Art or space.
We don't want to knock stuff out. Like, the thing with software updates with Mass Effect 3 is you could have fixed it. You could have removed the stuff which was bad and put in the most generic save the day ending or whatever and be like, oh, I can swallow this. I can buy it. It makes some degree of sense. Or they could have done a suspense ending where everything just like, oh, what happened? No one knows. And everyone's pissed off again because they wanted an actual ending. But that would have been better than the crap that we got. So there's lots of things they could have done to fix an ending, or to come back to it a year later, or to make a whole other expansion, or to make a sequel that fixes it. There's many things they could have done.
LiteratureDevil died.
That's like a fact of life. That's just a daily occurrence. What are you going to do? Are we still talking about chocolate in the comments, guys? I thought that was a nice analogy that Shiny brought up. I didn't expect to keep going. But, okay.
Wait, what are they saying about chocolate?
I don't know. I'm not following the conversation. Something about white chocolate is not dark chocolate, and then there's like some... all dark chocolate lives matter, and I don't know what the hell's going on.
Dark chocolate lives don't matter.
Chocolate blast from the past.
Oh, no.
feel bad for white chocolate. Their problems are not treated as just as serious as dark chocolate.
There's a greater population of white chocolate than there is of black chocolate, so I don't know what the big argument is.
No, there's more. The white chocolate's a minority.
Hmm.
There's the bigger per capita population representation of black chocolate. Okay. I got
White
you.
chocolate's a minority, and that means it must work twice as hard in the confectionery business to enjoy the same successes in life as dark chocolate.
Oh God.
Well, that's just an entitled response, sir. You're not living up to white chocolate's artistic integrity.
Hmm.
God damn it.
Are we waiting for LitDev to get back?
Nah, he'll come back in 5 minutes, I'm sure.
Do you think he's going to pull up the Ratatouille argument here, where he does the... In many ways, the life of a critic is easy. We risk very little, but enjoy a position over those who offer up their work for our judgment.
I don't know. All he said about Ratatouille was that he watched it the same day he passed the ending of Mass Effect 3, and I was like, that's strange.
Does that mean anything?
Not to
One's
me.
a good film, one's a bad ending.
To me, I think I was so destroyed. I don't think I absorbed media for the past few months after that. I was just in shock. Can't remember what else I watched that time, so no. Don't think it means anything.
Conversation
No, it
that
probably
examines
doesn't.
art, why something does or doesn't work, how it makes us feel, how we can understand it within the context of its production and reception. Entitlement is about self-gratification. I don't like this, so you have to do it right this time.
Yeah, but you could say the same with criticism. You could say this is bad, and here's the reasons why. All you're doing is giving proper reasons and analysis. That's the only difference, if something is bad.
Like, the objective problem with Sonic was that it didn't look like Sonic.
It looked horrific.
Yeah, it looked ugly. It was general audiences saying this ugly, not just Sonic fans. General audiences erupted in anger against Game of Thrones, far worse than Star Wars.
Plus,
Star Wars actually had
It's like the old argument for the Star Wars stuff. It's like, if it turned out that Rey's parents weren't actually Palpatines and they were some random junkers in the middle of nowhere, I wouldn't be upset that they didn't do the Palpatine thing that I was invested in, so long as what they actually provided was good in terms of writing quality.
Which it wasn't.
Which it wasn't either way.
I
would agree.
I think the term entitlement is also a very loaded word. You have to be very careful with how you use it, because we're talking about every fan is entitled to what they think of something based off previous examples. Of course they are, because we have previous examples to look at as a standard. Say, look at this previous, look at episode 4 and 5. That's the quality level we're expecting. You can do all sorts of zany things in episode 5 and still get away with it if you know how to break those rules. And luckily, whatever magical, whimsical solution that came up with episode 5's cut worked. On paper, it doesn't look too hot, but for whatever reason, the actors pulled it off, the fight choreographer pulled it off, John Williams did a great job, etc., etc. So everything seemed to work well, and they made something special. Great. Do the same formula, mix it up again, different perspective. There's a story. That's all you do. Follow the previous beats where their characters were, and just keep going with it. That's it. That's a trilogy. So you don't have to like do nihilism the second episode and then do, I don't know, existentialism the third one, and then it's like, well, it's just getting a little heavy-handed here for this show about space wizards. So, yeah, you don't
Intended for children.
Yeah, you don't try and reinvent the wheel every time you make a Star Wars film. You have a wheel that works, and now you could put more spokes in it. Now you could add thicker rubber. You can inflate the tire. You could deflate the tire. But it has to be a wheel. It has to rotate. It has to be smooth.
Interesting character. You can take a look at characters that previously more complex, have morally gray situation wanted to do, but you can figure out like what makes a good paragon character, what makes an antagonist character, maybe antagonist a little bit more sympathetic, maybe the good guy more flawed, stuff like that. Let's
Sure.
say that Luke isn't flawed, but like you can make him this person more flawed, give them a more original backstory, I guess. That's
right. It's very similar to look at really good films like you like Mad Max Fury Road. Like Mad Max, the focus of that character was never important. It was always about the scenarios he got into and the characters surrounding him. And that was the same formula in Fury Road. It really wasn't about Max that much. It was about Furiosa and all the people around her and the conflicts she was in that he got caught up into. So the formula works.
And also the action in Fury Road is spectacular. The action in it is so amazing.
Here we got two Brits talking about Doctor Who and one man talking about Mad Max. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like Game of Thrones. Like, I think it's nice. It's kind of refreshing, actually, that everybody reviles it. Even the mainstream media and the writers' community revile two men. They don't there was no Ryan Last Jedi level defense for that show. Everybody just collapsed. Especially after the Austin Film Festival, where a live tweet had utterly just the credit to Benioff and Weiss. Hopefully, we're going to go over that because we have so many videos you want to cover. Hopefully tomorrow or on Saturday we'll do one of those Dragon Demands videos you like. Yes. Okay. A conversation for another day. Let's just say. Okay. Sorry.
Now, I want to make it clear that I am not bemoaning fan criticism of franchise properties. Just a few months ago, I made a video where myself and a co-writer criticized the direction of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, and even offered some suggestions for things we'd like to see from the franchise moving forward. I stand by that video, and the critiques made within it. For that matter, I stand by the critiques of Mass Effect 3's ending that I had in 2012. I am not objecting to critique. What I am objecting to is approaching art like you would a Big Mac, demanding yours remade because you didn't want pickles. Of course, it can be hard to...
That's a very strange analogy. If it has...
He seems to be going from things like, oh, you know, we don't like the... Or we're saying... We're making demands because we weren't happy because of subjective aspects. You know, not liking pickles is subjective. If your pickles are literally shit, if they're, you know, off and they're decaying and, you know, the fucking ants in there, then obviously that is objectively bad. You should say, hey, look, this burger's terrible. I'm not happy with it.
Right. And now I can give the analogy of a hamburger requiring pickles. And if you don't like pickles, well, nothing's stopping you from picking up the pickle and throwing it out. This is not that scenario. This is the ending to a trilogy where your choices are supposed to amount to this big climax. And yes, it is a big climax, but it's still a big pile of shit. So if you like exploding the galaxy in the RGB color spectrum, bravo, you got what you wanted. The rest of us who are paying attention and listening and reading realize this was just a logical mess.
Yeah. I was just going to, by all accounts, The Witcher actually does a lot of this much better and actually it's the story and has various different outcomes that are not necessarily, you're totally tied up with your choices throughout the game in regards to Ciri.
I believe that started in The Witcher 2, where there were entire levels you missed, a choice you made, how you fought the last guy. There's various other choices as well. But yeah, that little element of choices mattering and showing the end result of that did have value to players. That's why they played the game a second time over, because you got to choose a different route, which is great as the character of The Witcher is sort of classless, not classless. He's not affiliated with anyone. They're supposed to be independent. Their main role is to destroy evil or hunt monsters. So that works. You can do things. See, the scope of the project has to match the actual vessel or the main character that you want characters to go along the journey with. So it works out that in that way. That's why when you have like Ray or a Mary Sue who can just do anything, she has nowhere to go. There's no reason why she can't do anything because she's amazing. So she has nowhere to grow, nowhere to go. Everyone's just a thing she has to react to, and that's that.
How sincere a lot of these demands really are. Especially with the internet's it's just a prank bro attitude. I have to assume that the people who started petitions to remake The Last Jedi or a full season of Game of Thrones didn't really think they were going to succeed. The act was more a performative gesture to demonstrate fan outrage. And it must also be stressed that a lot of this fan entitlement is inextricably wound up in reactionary politics.
Oh dear.
Okay, can someone please tell me what reactionary politics are? I still haven't gotten a definition. After I've been hearing this for a year now, I don't know what it is.
Couldn't tell you, bruh.
Okay, because again, this is not a political channel. We don't
Shiny,
really.
would you like to
Yeah,
start
Shiny,
that?
do you know
Sorry, I completely phased out what?
what is reactionary politics? I still don't know.
I don't. You mean like the term reactionaries?
I guess.
From what I can tell, it's mostly some kind. I don't even fucking know, but my guess is that it's for the way it's being used. I think it's just like mostly people like geeks and gamers, people who have a certain political orientation who just react to everything online. And I think geeks and gamers is probably one of the best examples of what they would call a reactionary, from what I've heard.
Okay, so it's politically agnostic, and it's just someone voicing their opinion of any stripe in a political sense. That's the general idea I'm getting, as I still don't know. And I don't think it's a YouTube.
I believe it's supposed to imply that then they're not being level-headed, they're just screaming online.
They're biased, or they have their viewpoint, they're sticking by it regardless. Okay, I guess that could be one way of looking at it. I would just call that someone who reviews things and is biased. That's about it. It doesn't have to be political, but they may take a political stance on certain things. But that's it. That's all I know. Other than that, I don't know if that's good, bad, right, or wrong. I couldn't tell you.
I don't care about the casting process. I don't care if you cast so long as they aren't like objectively bad actors like Tommy Wiseau or anybody of.
Well, there was that talk about whitewashing with Ghost in the Shell movie, which I didn't really care about. It would have been nice if it was an Asian actress, but they actually had a lore element that explained why she was the person she was, why she came from a certain background. So I actually liked it, even though it was unnecessary. You don't have to explain the ethnicity of someone's background in a cyberpunk world. It's like, okay, everyone's amalgamated anyway. You're more worried about whether your cyber brain is working or not whether you were born in Asia or North America. It doesn't really make a difference.
Only search Star Wars and diversity on YouTube to find a vast trove of bigotry. So the sense...
Yes, bigots.
We're
Okay.
terrible people. It's just those people that exist, of course, who ask for better content. It's racists.
It's this generic sea of bigotry. We don't know who. We don't know what aisle they're on. We don't know what they're saying. They're just bigots.
I think Dunn and Shiny have died.
Oh, really?
No, I'm alive. I've just kind of phased out. I'm no longer that interested.
Thanks, Shiny. We appreciate it.
Where's Lit?
Well,
Lit
LiteratureDevil died. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, he's at this point. He's not really saying anything which is interesting me. So I'm mostly just working on this thing right now.
Could be an outage. Could be a lightning storm. We had a bunch of rain hit Eastern Seaboard past day, so it's possible.
I don't know. I think a big part of
Dunn, what was that?
I was just going to. It seems as though it's going very surface level with this.
Yeah.
there's not much of like actual analysis.
It seems like
Like-
he's reaching for a 100-year-old story about Sherlock, and now he's talking about Justice League, and just because things get redone, somehow that's bad. Now, the funny thing is, I actually agree, because if the people making the thing don't actually understand what went wrong, they're not going to be able to make a secondary, like a version 2, that will fix all the issues. So it's the difference between having a piece of software that has bug fixes or a list of fixes that need to happen, as opposed to going, oh, you're giving us more money to remake whatever I want to do. So there's not enough feedback and response from audience to tell the creators, hey, you're doing this wrong because this is not what Superman is, or this is not what a Batman character would have done.
Entitlement is not just about not liking a movie or TV show. That said, I do think it's fair to say the persistent demands that creators fix their work does reflect a genuine sense of disappointment from a certain population of fandoms, and perhaps
What
more
does that say about the
profoundly,
quality
a refusal
of the
to
story?
accept that disappointment.
Yeah, it seems like an obvious argument. Why do you think they dislike something?
Did he say we should accept disappointment?
Yes.
He said, "Why? No, go back. He can't have said that. Surely
Work
not."
does reflect a genuine sense of disappointment from a certain population of fandoms, and perhaps more profoundly, a refusal to accept that disappointment.
Okay. Accept mediocrity, guys. Accept crap. Accept things that make you disappointed.
Don't make sense.
He said we shouldn't refuse disappointment. or is he just acknowledging that we refuse to be disappointed?
It's not like we wanted to be disappointed. It's not that we wanted the right wheel on our car to fall off. It's not that we wanted, but we should accept the fact that it did.
Let's accept the fact
it's- If you like make
franchises go down in flames.
you can't make these arguments about a functional product. So, the thing about films is that they're not is like they're more artistic. But if you made these arguments about a car or a chair or a desk or a computer, and it's like, oh well, you just didn't like that, or you shouldn't. You should accept that the fact that this chair you got's broken in places, or that your car doesn't run.
Consume product.
And just accept it, even if it's bad. What a strange argument. It's like, oh, there's all these problems, but you know what? I'm okay with them.
It's the idea that we didn't get specifically what we wanted, and not the fact that we were disappointed with the quality of what was provided.
Yeah, he didn't bring up any issues or argument about quality. What's good and what's bad? Why is something being argued as being bad? What is entitlement to a person?
You didn't like the film because Luke didn't crush a Star Destroyer with his hands using the Force. That's what you wanted, and you didn't get it. No, I'm just disappointed at the quality of the writing around his character in the film. No, you wanted a totally different Luke. It's like, no, I wanted a better Luke.
I could take a lot of the elements in The Last Jedi. The problem is their execution is so asinine that I cannot accept that this is anything other than mediocre or bad writing. Same with Rise of Skywalker, though. At least Rise of Skywalker, like, people are like unified in saying that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
What a weird take. Accept being disappointed and move on. There you go, guys.
It's some sort of weird lifestyle thing. It's like, oh, pain happens. Just get on with your life. It's like, yeah, we get it. But this is not a thing for... This is the avenue for joy. This is entertainment. You're supposed to have a good time. If you're not having a good time, just get used to it. That's life.
Right, I don't think I have anything more to add, and I'm going to pop off now. See you later.
All right. See you, Shiny.
See you later. Later.
It's that
And then
refusal
number
which I
3.
find so interesting. It's one thing to complain about a movie on the internet, and even to suggest how it could have been done better. But it's something else entirely to demand that a studio remake it to your liking. Your favorite franchise may be broken, but that doesn't mean they can't fix it.
But they're refusing to fix it. They're refusing to fix it when we say, hey, can you go back and do this again?
Yeah, they're not. The one example is Mass Effect, where they had every opportunity to fix their mistakes, and they didn't. They just painted them over with more shit. It's you're adding a problem on top of another problem, which
It's like if the fans go, hey, do you think this thing could be done better? And people go, no. It's like, but it's broken and there's like holes everywhere. Nope, it's fine. We're not continuing. We're not going to look back on it. It's done now.
yeah.
But the franchise can't go anywhere if you leave these gaping problems in the story. Nope, not being done again.
Yeah, essentially, when there's so many problems, especially when you're talking about a series continuing, what do you do in a multi-choice ending like Mass Effect where you blow up the galaxy and everyone's either a cybernetic, inorganic, organic hybrid,
Dead.
or all technology's gone, or you have this godlike emperor controlling everyone's fate? It's like you can't really go, like you've painted yourself into a corner and then you can't work from that corner. There's nowhere else to go. You have to either reboot the entire series or do something entirely new. So that's not a fault of the fans saying this is crap. That's just the fault of the writers going, oh, well, this is what's going to happen.
It's still good.
So have you debunked his happiness
If
yet?
they give
Not yet, no. He told us to accept mediocrity and accept things that are bad.
Why should we?
I don't know.
Why? Give us a reason why. Because if you can't give us a reason why, I'm not going to.
He essentially said, stop arguing, essentially. He's like, yeah, just don't criticize stuff. There's no reason to.
If criticism could just go away, the world would be a much better place to live. No, not really.
Mass Effect a better ending, it'll certainly be good again. If Sonic looks better, the movie won't be a soulless cash grab. If they remake The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker can
wait
be
a minute.
redeemed.
Hang on. You're saying that it wasn't a soulless cash grab already to create a film on one of the most popular cartoon video game characters ever? That wasn't a cash grab idea from the word go?
Yes, it was totally a cash grab.
Yeah, being sarcastic, but come on.
Something that, like the Sonic movie, is pretty obvious. Yeah.
We're just giving advice on how to make it better as a cash grab by actually making it look like the video game character. And
Yeah.
it worked. They got their money back. They did better than a DC movie. And they got guaranteed a sequel, which I think is being made.
Again, if Sonic looks better, the movie won't be a soulless cash grab. If they remake The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker can be redeemed. The
Yes, he
fallacy
can.
here?
No, first of all, with the Sonic movie, it's not, if it looks better, it'll look less like a cash grab. No, because the whole idea was that it didn't look like Sonic in the first place. At the very least, you could make the main character look like the traditional main character. Okay, if you can make Sonic look like Sonic. That was the
Then
whole
maybe-
thing.
Be a cash grab and also good at the same time.
Yeah, you can have both. You can do two things can be true at the same time. It can be a faithful, or more or less, at least visually, in the main character, faithful adaptation of Sonic. At least give us Sonic as the main character, not some nightmare fuel, weird, creepy thing. And just give us Sonic. That's all they asked for, and they did, and it was a success. They're going to get a sequel now.
What do you think is a cash grab? Shrek 2 was a cash grab.
Everything that's a product is a cash grab, yes.
Detective Pikachu. The SpongeBob film was a cash grab. That doesn't mean they can't also be good at the same time. Now, whether they are or not, I don't know. I haven't looked into them that thoroughly.
The thing with the extended cut, it was a passion to release it. There was no money. It was a thing that they wanted to do for the fans because there was such an outcry. And they didn't listen to the fans. They didn't say, oh, we're going to take all... They said they did, but in reality they didn't. They did not change their vision. They just doubled down on everything and just made it bigger and the problem worse. The endings are the same. Now you get a fourth ending where everyone dies, you screwed everything up, and you have a warning message to the next people 50,000 years later saying, don't screw up like we did, don't shoot the Star Kid, pretty much. So, yeah, pretty much the middle finger to the fans with that ending. And they didn't learn their lesson. And they pumped out 2 horrible games after that, aside from Inquisition, which sold well. But even that is questionable as a product of quality compared to the first game of Origins.
Is that none of these quick fixes would actually work. Disappointment.
Yes, they would.
They did work.
Yeah, the Sonic fix that worked. It became pretty successful.
Why would releasing the Snyder Cut not work? In what way will that not work? They make money. It's already made.
It doesn't really affect any, and even somewhat better because Joss Whedon filmed a lot of this stuff.
Well, the thing is that there is literally, as far as I can tell, in terms of a practical side, what I see, there's nothing to lose. They have all the footage already. If it turns out worse than the original cut, then they just make sure that people know the original cut is the one to buy. If it's better, then you say that the Snyder Cut is the, intended viewing experience, and you get money. Where's the loss in that? Studios just being like, no, we don't want you to release it, and we'll be unhappy if you do.
And frustration can't just be patched out post-launch.
Yes, it can.
Can, yeah.
That's how software works.
To illustrate this, let's talk about hashtag release the Snyder Cut. In May of 2017, director Zack Snyder left production of Justice League and passed post-production responsibilities to Joss Whedon, who had already been involved in rewrites. By July, the film had entered into an extensive 2 months of reshoots, and in the process changed a lot of Snyder's original vision, either by cutting scenes he planned to shoot entirely or filming them in a radically different style. The resulting film released in October to a largely mixed reception, with critics and fans both noting that the overall work felt like a strange mishap of 2 very different directors with very different approaches to superhero filmmaking. Rumors swirled of a secret Zack Snyder director's cut, which Warner Brothers had buried. Disappointed fans flooded social media with hashtag release the Snyder Cut, and over the coming months, the movement only grew. The now expected fan petitions and letter campaigns eventually evolved into more elaborate publicity stunts, like paid billboards and bus stops. It should be noted that while such fans ran the gamut from mostly harmless to serial harassers, the basic notion that the much mythologized Snyder Cut would be able to fix Justice League at all is highly dubious.
I don't think it's I don't think it's really a point. I don't think it's
Justice
really.
League is, I don't know if
it's not
Justice
pausing.
is going to be or Cut is going to be different, but I don't know how good it's going to be. I don't have faith in Zack Snyder.
Yeah, we don't know if it's going to be good. The fact that people want it because what they got wasn't very good.
I think that it's not even the fact that it's going to fix the cut. It might not do anything else for it. This might be a different version of something terrible, but we just want to see it because we want to see if it's better or worse. I mean, it's there. It's a question that has been asked that we want answered. What's the Snyder Cut? What does it involve? How will it work? Is it better? It could be better. That's the whole question about it. That's why we want to see it. What was Snyder's original vision? And it could be worse. It could be better. It could be exactly the same, just different. We don't know, but we want to find out. The fans want to find out because it's a question that's been asked, and these are fans. The people asking it are fans of the franchise, all these characters. So why not?
Yes, it's one of those very rare times where you have this movement going on where you can appease fans simply by doing almost the same thing over again in a different light, which is pretty much what a story is, or a plot. You take the same plot, twist it a bit, throw in some new elements, and see how that works. If reshooting is was it $30 million was the highest potential cost? You're probably going to make some money back. I don't think this is going to solve the problem of Justice League being good or being better or fixed. But it seems like a safe enough bet. It's kind of like remaking, what was that, Final Fantasy VII. People wanted a remake because they liked the original. And all they really had to do was just update the graphics, put voice acting, etc. But they spent so much more time and money redoing the combat, redoing scenes, adding new mechanics, changing equipment, changing all the magic system, how it works. That was unnecessary. They didn't have to do that, but because they wanted to do something new for the sake of it, they did. And now we have to wait another decade or two for the final product to come out. So they didn't have to do that. The thing would have sold regardless, I think, because of its popularity. But people wanted it. Seems a pretty easy sell. Hey, we have a product before that sold really well. People want more of it. Okay.
No, you're not allowed to want anything as a consumer.
Apparently not. Can't criticize it either. You just have to accept whatever you're given.
Certainly as an unfinished, still to be edited work print, with placeholder effects, missing scenes which were never filmed, shots lacking color correction, etc., etc. It's an unfinished movie. This isn't a Blade Runner situation where all the footage is there to recut all sorts of different versions. But let's assume, for the sake of argument, that there is indeed a complete Snyder Cut reflecting Zack Snyder's original directorial vision, and it'll even get a big premiere on HBO Max. Can this version fix Justice League?
Well, it wouldn't need fixing because you'd be replacing it.
Absolutely not. All the evidence
You cannot
suggests
prove that.
Snyder's vision was
What are we talking about? Are we talking about a movie being on top of another movie as the previous movie never existed?
But yeah, you wouldn't be fixing Justice League. You'd be replacing Justice League with a superior or inferior version.
That's fine. Who cares? Let them do that.
It will not fix any errors that were in Batman.
I
to
still don't
Superman.
understand where he's going with this. What's wrong with the HBO Max? I think they invested in this on their own, didn't they? Didn't they say, "Hey, we're going to do the Snyder Cut. We're going to invest in producing the Snyder Cut, and we're just going to release it to all the fans." What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with appealing to fans who overwhelmingly want something. It's kind of became a meme. Even if it's doing for the meme, people are going to just go watch it, even though they don't care. It's going to, hey, the Snyder Cut is out. I better go watch it. They want to take selfies with the thing. That's how it goes, and it's a really good business deal. But because it appeals to the fans, and you can't appeal to fans these days, a big no-no. Because it's not supposed to be a mutual respect thing anymore. It's supposed to be you obey, kneel before Zod sort of thing, where fans and customers must take the knee for the creators and the industry. They can't do that anymore. But because they're doing that, they're demonizing it. So that's why that's why it seems like the Snyder Cut is being demonized in the first place, because it's appealing to fans, and they can't have that. Because if one person does that, if one industry does that, or one platform does that, then they can't lock arms in solidarity with each other. And some fans, and they'll lose customers to the people who are to the industries actually appealing to fans and actually having that nice back and forth. And the people who are not doing that, who want to dominate fans rather than work with fans, are going to lose out on business.
But I think the more relevant issue to the question he is asking is that Justice League would not need fixing if the theatrical version of the film came out, because it would be a replacement.
It's a strange thing to compare, though. We started with Sherlock being
Fixing-
brought back, then we went to Mass Effect with the extended cut. Now we're talking about redoing an entire movie. These are very different things.
Fixing would be if I released Justice League Part 2 and tried to course correct from there. But if I'm replacing the film entirely with something else, then it's not a patch job. It's like, hey, here's a better version, and then that one's canon.
Possibly, yeah.
It doesn't fix any issues from like Batman versus Superman unless I was able to write that in.
It's like two people writing a What If comic or an Elseworld comic with their own versions. I'm not seeing the problem.
I don't. And the fact that he just says, like, objectively, no, it will not fix. It's like, okay.
So what? So
Why?
what? I don't think the idea is to fix the problem. The idea is to just give everyone what Zack Snyder originally had envisioned for the movie, because we're interested. That was because he was the first guy to work on it. He was the original guy to work on it. He kind of left afterward, and they brought on Joss Whedon, and then it kind of became muddled and muddied, and it became like a sloppy, weird amalgamation of two people's visions, and so that's what we got in the end. What we want to see is what would the movie look like under one person's vision. It might be terrible, might be good, might be average, who knows, but it might be better than what we got. And it's just a question that a lot of these fans fans of Superman, fans of superhero movies in general, they want that answered. It's not going to replace anything, but it will answer the question: what was Snyder's vision of the movie going to be? Because it's might be a little bit better than Joss Whedon's kind of like stitched together vision of several people compared to Zack Snyder's vision of one solitary person.
Every bit as over-bloated and messy as the final product, crammed with underdeveloped characters and subplots existing mostly to set up future movies. Future movies which at this point are no longer happening.
But
Snyder's
they would
Cut
if you released the Snyder Cut. What if they did? What if people were like, actually, this could go somewhere now? The idea that it unequivocally 100% cannot happen. I'm sorry, you have no concrete evidence because you know just as little about the Snyder Cut as we do.
It's a strange thing to say that these things wouldn't spark its own version of storytelling on HBO Max or streaming. Hey, we can get superhero comics that are big names into a streaming service for episodic content, like, I don't know, 22-minute episodes or 45-minute episodes. That could be a new thing if HBO Max is successful in selling this.
What if we redid the Justice League with the Snyder Cut ideas, but we turned it into 3 series worth of a TV show?
Why not? If people want it and there's a big demand for it, what's stopping them?
What is the point of this exercise again?
Pretty much that fan entitlement.
No, I mean, like, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but what I'm trying to get at is this person is saying, what does this person think that entertainment is? Like, it's about making money, right? So, or getting eyes on your product. So,
told us we should refuse. We should refuse to. What did he say? He said something stupid, but I can't.
Can't even remember what he said because his argument is just
put those words together in my head and speak them.
Yeah, it comes down to you should accept things that are bad, essentially.
We shouldn't refuse to accept disappointment.
Right.
Mediocrity is a new normal. That's what he says.
Oh,
It's
the new
so
normal.
accepted. Yeah. That's exactly what he said, but it's essentially the soul of his argument. Mediocrity and disappointment and terrible things are the new normal. Just accept it and pay the industry for giving you anything at all.
Why?
Exactly my question. Why should I? Why should I? Explain to me why I should do that. Why I shouldn't expect excellence from the things I'm spending money, investing time into.
See, I've been going to fewer movies. Crap. My money on other things. Like,
If there's a demand, for like Disneyland in downtown city, and everyone wants it, then maybe you should try looking into that. If that's going to be financially viable, who knows?
I just I wonder if this person realizes that they're basically like a corporate shill. Like they're basically giving a piece of public relations information, like
Saying he's a corporate shell UI,
but for free. They're not even getting paid really to
Right.
say exactly what a corporation would want them to say.
The corporation has tricked them into feeling moral, into moralizing, to thinking they're better people because they're accepting, they're arguing, making the argument for the general populace to accept lower and lower quality and paying even the same or more than they used to for better quality stuff. To feel better about that, to feel good about it.
Well, I think it's funny because I remember talking to somebody that I was working with when I was at Lego, who was actually a comic editor back in the day and had a bunch of contacts at DC, and he was complaining about how his source was saying that there were people that were calling up Warner Brothers office looking for the head of production, like, hey, I want to talk about this Snyder cut, and either they eventually caved, or they saw that there was enough people and enough interest that the amount of money that they put into this Snyder cut wouldn't be viable for them to release and use as a way to push something. I mean, people are talking about HBO Max now. So clearly they're trying to push their streaming service. So they say, hey, join our thing and you'll get to see the Snyder Cut. And my immediate instinct is that's exactly like CBS All Access asking you to buy CBS All Access so that you can watch Star Trek Discovery. You know, but as a the B part of my statement, my secondary statement is that I don't understand why alternate cuts to things are a bad thing when I have bought Blade Runner like 3 times already because they keep re-releasing new cuts of it. If there was an assembly cut that was like the legendary 4-hour version of it that had even more content, I'd buy it because I like the content. The thing that I think is interesting about the Snyder Cut is that I'm highly suspect, and I would love to make this statement and be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. But I don't think that the source material that we're working with is going to be good enough to justify the Snyder Cut. So I'm not exactly sure if this is DC's way of getting rid of Snyder or embracing him. Because if it's bad, then they never have to hire him or hear from his fans ever again.
I think the general opinion is that it's not going to be anything special. It'll just be a different take on what could be better. Could be something that is better than what we got. That's about it. There's really no other expectation aside from, well, they're going to put Darkseid in there. That's going to be great. It's like, not really. They're going to add different elements.
Oh, it's weird. Like they're saying, oh, you're going to put Darkseid in there. It sounds like a complete change of the story, but they're only putting $20 million into it. That doesn't add up. And what my real anger these days is that there are so many people on YouTube. And the reason why I wanted to be on YouTube in the first place is because there are people like this guy all the time that they're not really doing deep analysis from the outside. So it's like it's not like, you know, somebody releases source code for a programmer. The programmer doesn't work for the company. They're just some random GitHub contributor. But they're able to look at the same code and note where the errors are, add comments and stuff. And what is happening is we have people that are the film review equivalent of that don't know anything about programming, and they're like, oh, this could be so much better. Look at this issue and they're not the people that are actually coding. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you know, there's a bunch of people that are running around posing as experts on YouTube that want their opinion on film heard, and they don't justify it in their video. And that's what I hear from this guy. So you can't do this. You can't do this. Like, why not? Why can't I bring in Ridley Scott to do a cut of this movie? Why can't I bring in the editor that Scorsese works with to do a different version of it? Why can't we re-release a single version of this that comes in 5 different cuts? Why can't I release the source material so that you can make your own cut? What are we selling here? Are we selling one canon timeline product? Clearly not, because we keep remaking shit. So maybe it doesn't even matter. Maybe it's like one of those restaurants where they just bring you all the raw ingredients and you assemble it in your where you're sitting. Maybe it can be, every movie can be like Bandersnatch, and you can choose what outcomes you want. And then everybody will shut up about it. But that's not likely going to happen, you know, because people want a story that's made for them. Film is kind of a passive entertainment versus video games, which is like active entertainment. You want to sit and you want to watch a well-curated movie. It's like the same thing with music. People don't want to assemble the music. They will enjoy a remix, but they would like to know that the original released song was intended to be the original released song. If the remix is better, you can sell that too. But obviously somebody like this, I don't think is thinking about the motivations behind a lot of the finances and the moves in Hollywood. A lot of moves in Hollywood won't make sense based on the formulas and the extrapolations and the ideas that people like this are talking about. Like, he knows nothing about like Hollywood real estate and how that affects productions, or how people making promises that they can't keep affects Hollywood productions. He doesn't know anything about it. You just, okay. But well, I don't know how to deal with that, because I do know about that. I'm supposed to listen to somebody's ignorance. You know what I mean?
I think
Anyway,
he's going on the assumption that the remakes in the past, like the Mass Effect one, I don't know how he compared Sherlock properly. It didn't make sense to me. That they're a quick fix. They're not actually solving the problem. I'm like, you're right. They are a quick fix. They aren't solving the problem, and that is the problem. When they can solve these issues, they can patch things post-release with new content. Of course you can. What was stopping them? And it's all comes down to the producer saying, no, we're doing it my way again, just more of the same or whatever. So compare that to TV, streaming services, movies. It's the same idea or the same philosophy.
My favorite cut of Blade Runner is the final cut that took place 20 years after the movie came out. But I don't like things about it. But then I do like a lot of things about it. It's like, okay, well, that's because that's a distinct product. It's a version 3.0 or whatever of a product. That's just totally fine. Why not? Why can't we do an alt version of anything? I just don't. I'm bored with it. I'm bored with people that are trying to gatekeep the audience and the product, so that it has to be A to B is only one interpretation, and yet at the same time they want to say that everybody's subjective interpretation is what is important. Yet we can't, like serial harassment. Like, yeah, obviously there are crazy people out there that are like, I want Snyder Cut. Give me the Snyder Cut, calling every day to the place. Those people are crazy. But at the same time, if there is a big enough market to get people to pay for HBO Max, maybe it's a savvy business decision. We don't need an artistic choice. Any criticism that's going to come from the artistic aspects of that is going to be irrelevant to the decisions that were made to make that happen. And I don't have an emotion or like my only response is to be like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Seems like these people have a weird moral imperative to try and make it so the artist free reign and audiences silent.
Well, he hasn't said anything about artistic integrity yet, and that was the I'm trying to remember the guy's name, Colin Moriarty, I think, in 2012 when he released that video about how BioWare does not owe you anything. They can do whatever they like. It's like, right, yeah, they can do whatever they want, but they ended up fixing or trying to fix the ending to the thing they released.
PR will just go down.
Yeah, but again, these are the people who they took away their forums because it was outdated. It's like, no, this is where we all communicate to you, and this is where you respond to us. They got rid of the forums for all their games. So now you have to communicate through EA's whatever system, which is everything from hardware problems of installation and running the program to actual arguing about the content of the product, which is not exactly the most personal feel. And you see their blog posts on blog.bioware.com or whatever it is. It's just this ridiculous one about games no one cares about, like Anthem. So the quality of this, I guess, a corporate entity at this point has seriously been depleted. And I don't know if it does not do well in its next release. So I guess it's Dragon Age is their next product. No one's going to care. And we haven't cared for almost a decade now. So, sadly. Anyway, we only have a few minutes left. We'll just keep on trucking here, guys.
Alter as much as add. The basic story structure and villain is the exact same. You just get more of it. Not just more detail and backstory on the characters that made it into the final cut, but more characters, period. Darkseid, Desaad, Nudis Velko, The Atom, Eleanor Stone, Iris West, Martian Manhunter. Because if Justice League needed anything, it's more characters. It's Mass Effect 3 all over again. Oh, you didn't like the thing? Here, have some more! The best you could hope for from a Snyder Cut is...
See, this I actually agree with. He's making a good point, because comparing it to Mass Effect 3, it's just more of the same. However, we're talking about an entirely different cut of a movie not an entirely different 20 minutes of an ending of a video game. Very different things. So we have no idea what the Snyder Cut is, but it's probably not going to be anything fantastic.
A more consistent tone, but even that seems somewhat unlikely. Snyder had already made efforts to lighten things up after the negative response to Batman v Superman, and Whedon was also brought on board for rewrites before Snyder had left. Hell, the very existence of Justice League is a transparent effort to catch up with Marvel in half the time. Point being, all the things audiences didn't like about the theatrical version of the film, the rushed story, the lame villain, the shaky tone, would still be present in the Snyder Cut. Again, Justice League is not Blade Runner. This isn't the case where a great movie was obscured by a studio-mandated happy ending and a dreadful voiceover. It isn't Once Upon a Time in America, where a great epic had more than an hour hacked out and the film's structure completely altered. You can't just fix the bad thing and put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Okay, but
Why not?
that's the same argument with Mass Effect. It's not Mass Effect. It's a game. It's totally different. You're right. So why are you comparing these two things that don't relate?
I think one of the main things that seems to be disappointing is that Mass Effect started a lot better than DC Universe ever did,
Well,
and that's what's so annoying.
yeah, you're comparing a space opera hard science fiction to, well, what the hell do you compare it to? Batman v Superman?
Man of Steel and Batman v Man of Steel,
Yeah.
really stupid, and with Batman v Superman is really stupid. And Justice League was a mess. It was always going to be a mess, but they made it an even worse mess by having two directors reshoot a lot of it. So
The problems run too deep. This is also why I bring up Mass Effect 3. A common expression in the weeks after release was, quote, Mass Effect 3 was great until the last 15 minutes. Something Reykjavik demonstrates in his years later series was never really true.
Again, I agree. There's lots of problems with this game, but a lot of the stuff in the middle was good to mediocre, meaning it's passable. People go, hey, you know what? That was believable. I can believe what happened, even though the climaxes weren't as great as they could have been. And I think that was my general response to Mass Effect 3, because I didn't do the whole plot analysis. I just did the beginning and the ending, because that's where the major problems were. And the middle part, to the average viewer or player, was passable. To my hardcore fans or hardcore friends of the game, they said, no, it's all crap. You're like, well, okay. Once you have an ending that bad, everything looks good by comparison. But when you actually just look at that independently, then yes, you could say some of the elements on Tuchanka and Rannoch were really bad. But it was still passable to the average audience.
It's also not relevant. It doesn't matter if this product is good or not. What matters is that it's going to get subscriptions for HBO Max.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? You're like, pay attention to the fact that movies are not like, they're not this transcendent experience exclusively that are made by master auteur craftsmen and all. You know, it's like, that's rare. It's a business.
I would love to have a second extended cut. I would love to get until they get it goddamn right. Who wouldn't want the best version from the best writers? But they didn't have the best writers. They didn't have the best producers. And they didn't have all the time in the world. But that's life. That's how bad. I mean, they had the opportunity to fix things, and they didn't. And that was a free download. There was no money involved. They gave it out. Like, oh, wow, they put a lot of passion and love into that. And you realize, oh, it's more of the same. So comparing this, a video game ending, to a movie that's now being redone for a streaming service is a bit different. I get what he's trying to say, though. The quick fix or the non-intelligent response is bad. It's always going to be bad. But the thing is, the potential is there. And you can say that about any software going forward, like a video game or business software. It's like you can update things. You can change things. You can change the narrative. And if that was the business strategy or the model that BioWare had for the Mass Effect series, and they pulled it off, That would have been amazing. I would have just been like, because they generated all of this hype. This was already their biggest, most amazing game after Mass Effect 2. Everyone was excited about it. And if they generated a horrible ending for the sake of making hype, just to come out with the real ending a month or two later, for free, like that's crazy. If they actually thought about it and wrote a good story in the first place, which they didn't. So.
Though the game has some serious highs, it's also full of compromises in gameplay, contrivances in writing, and hobbled-together level design, born from a rush production and a publisher unwilling to give the project.
I kind of think this video was made off a serious high.
Yeah, he's blaming EA now, and a lot of people blame big companies or big publishers or big software companies just because they're big. EA was not the fault. I get this a lot, even today. It's always FEA. This is all EA's fault. They didn't give enough money or time. No. BioWare, and even by the owners of BioWare, says EA gives you enough rope to hang yourself. They signed up for whatever schedule EA projected. They could have asked for more time. They could have asked for more money, but they said they were going to do it at a certain time, at a certain way, with a certain engine, with a certain amount of people. Okay? They could have made that game any way they wanted. There was no EA producer in a suit hanging over their shoulders telling them what to do. That's not how EA makes games, at least from BioWare. So this is all on the producers and the writers of the game, Casey Hudson and Mac Walters. If you want to blame anyone, it's their creative vision, and we saw that through interviews that were done. So it's all there on the wall. If you want to read it, you don't have to. But it's not EA's fault. They wanted to make money. I don't know how well they did in relation to Mass Effect 2. I think Mass Effect 2 was the bigger one. So if there was some scheme with like buying the game with a console or some service you have to sign up for, I don't recall. But that would have worked. ME3 got its multiplayer, so that was a big selling point, which EA pretty much slaps onto every game they produce now. There has to be a multiplayer component for whatever reason. So... yeah.
The ending may be the most egregious manifestation of these problems, but those problems don't just go away with a better ending. Like Justice League, Mass Effect 3 can't just be quickly fixed. And moreover...
Yes, it can. Again, I say this again.
Yeah, it absolutely could. Yeah, just give the fans what they wanted. Give them more meaningful endings, and it'll be pretty much fixed.
All you do is tell the writer you're doing it wrong. This is what you need to do. All you do is tell the producer, you are leaving the room right now. We don't need your creative input, Mr. Hudson. We're going to get some Drew Karpashian or Chris Atwal or any other good writers that know what the hell they're doing and saying, hey, how do we wrap this up, guys? Give me your best ideas. And change the ending. That's all they had to do. And for whatever reason, they did not. Assuming because the guys in charge are still in charge.
Yep. There's so many people that are in charge of stuff that don't belong there, but they have some sort of component in them, whether it's psychopathy or sociopathy or both. Some people like chocolate and vanilla swirl. But they've found their way to the top, and they just don't have the prerequisite artistic or managerial ability to create a product that is becoming of the position they wanted. Yeah, Mark in 3D, Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know anything about that. I don't know. She's so good at making movies. Haven't you seen all the movies she's made where she's been in charge of them without being at the head of Disney?
Really, really, really good at syncing properties. Basically, a cinematic equivalent of torpedoes.
We are at a point in time where the corporate media that is owned by the same company creating the content is basically telling us not to believe our lying eyes. It's like, sorry, it's not going to work.
The corporate media, the same corporate media that's producing the products, are also the critics of the same products.
Wow. Yeah. And then that's what makes me disrespect people like this so much. It's like there's this slot of people who think that critics are like the key to improving content, and maybe they'll be the critic that'll be the one that'll change films, and they'll also be the best director ever, Patrick Willems. Like, fuck you. It's not going to happen.
You're a YouTuber. Patrick Willems. Patrick Williams and Just Right barely make good arguments. Like, Just Right has some good arguments to Game of Thrones and Rise of Skywalker, but he really has blinders. Black Panther, Wonder Woman, stuff like that.
I really should take a look at Just Right's review of episode 8 and 9 close. I really want to. I bet he's saying exactly the same arguments, but liking one over the other just because it's different.
EA's Star Wars Battlefront 2 is amazing, according to EA.
He makes the unsubverted expectations.
They probably shouldn't be. What unnerves me so much about this current era of fan entitlement and demands to fix supposedly broken franchises is the inability to process disappointment. A bad movie isn't a bad movie, but a poorly made product. And like,
oh my
we
god,
we can process disappointment very well.
It is.
We can take the disappointment and we say, no, we're disappointed. We want do better. Okay, we want something different. Just we're disappointed. You did something wrong. Okay, we're disappointed on a grand scale. We can process it just fine.
A rose by any other name is still disappointing. It doesn't really matter what you call it. It's still a bad thing that happened when you're sitting down for 2 hours going, oh, this is shit. And then pointing out why. That's not hard to do. I mean, some people can't adapt and say exactly what they were looking at and say, what just processed through my brain? Like with episode 9, you weren't entirely sure what happened until you watch it in slow motion. But you can figure it out. It's a mess.
And they honestly, they responded to a lot of the criticisms of Last Jedi. They just did it in such a half-assed way. Absolutely insulting.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson's been a real trooper on Twitter, defending his magnum opus that he created.
And then he took Potch as a Skywalker and saying it's a homage.
Oh well.
I'll show you the screenshot. It's really funny.
All right, 1 more minute left, guys.
Let's do this.
Big Mac, if yours wasn't made right, you tell them to fix it.
You forgot the pickles!
Yeah, you tell them to fix it if it wasn't made right.
Did he say don't do that?
Did he say that?
Let me go back.
That's poorly made product. And like a Big Mac, if yours wasn't made right, you tell them to fix it.
Yeah.
Forgot the pickles!
I thought you said we should.
That's how it works.
I thought you
that's not
said
how
we should
art
accept
works.
being disappointed.
Yes, it is how it works. Yes, it is how it works.
It is how it works.
It's exactly how it
Especially,
works.
Like, familiar with the system in Italy?
That's how business works.
The only reason why Galileo was able to make his art was because he was making products that the princes of Italy liked.
Do you not understand life?
Michelangelo.
Do you not understand
Do
life?
Do you? You're tearing me apart, Eyebrow Man.
What's the critics then?
What's our
Tanya.
role? Yeah, what do we do?
We just say we like it or not, I guess.
It was good.
Apparently, a critic's job these days is to say everything is awesome.
Cool.
No, it's not.
You know what I like? I like steak. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah.
I like steak too.
Yeah, let's talk about steak for the rest of the
I was gonna bring the pickle analogy just because he's using it, but I'm gonna stop right there.
Yep.
Don't want to
No, let's go.
bore you out with my food knowledge.
I want to see what this because I know he's gonna say some stupid conclusion like art is auteur. It's all about what the artist did. If you don't like it, it's art auteur. Important that art is subjective.
It comes. So how do we determine? So how does this guy determine whether an auteur sucks at his job?
If he brings up Hume, I'm gonna laugh.
Yeah. Oh God. The magic philosopher Gary Stottle said.
Gary Stottle. It's fantastic.
Art may require an audience, but it does not require subordinating itself to the precise whims of everyone who consumes it. Art inspires.
It does if you're trying to sell it to people. It's a business.
It is a business. You have
you
to
don't-
cater to the fans because
You don't have to cater-
oftentimes the fan understands what's good about it.
Yeah, you don't have to change your artistic vision for anyone unless you want to sell it to these people.
Isn't
That's
there...
why we're entitled. That's why we have a right to say this is terrible, because we are the ones consuming it. We're the ones who have given you money and time. Okay, you want to stick to your artistic vision and stick to it. We don't expect us to buy it.
They just hate the fact that films are more than art. They're a product. They're financially dependent, just like video games, on the fact that you can make a living while doing them, because it's a profession. Professions have to be paid for. So, no. Precise whims of everybody in the audience, impossible. Generally, giving the audience what they came for, that's the reason why we make food jokes all the time. Because food is made according to a recipe. Everybody that goes to the restaurant, they look at the menu, they order something off the menu, they want it to be the exact same quality as every other person. Does that mean they're going to like every choice? Does that mean that they're going to enjoy the way that you used butter here instead of oil there? No. Does that mean that they want cranberries instead of oranges in their salad? I don't know. But that's not what the chef wanted. And what people want is what the chef wanted, unless they don't want what the chef wants, and then the business is going to go under. For some reason, this basic aspect of finance
economics.
Yeah. That's just not existent.
It's like he's never heard of QA tests or focus tests or stress tests or anything with
Data readers.
with software or movies. It's like, yeah, we don't just release to the public raw. We have a cut. We say, what do you think of that? And they get back to us. And the rumors about episode 9, I think, that were so bad that they had to redo things and do reshoots and then reinvent a new villain. And that's one potential reason why. This is all rumors, of course. Why the Palpatine came back.
Well, and then there's the actual leaks that came out, which were really 1-for-1 accurate.
Yeah.
And with Game of Thrones, people leaked the Game of Thrones scripts 1-for-1. Was absolutely wow. This was head on accurate.
Right, and you saw the video of them doing the read at the tables there, and they were all talking about going through the read of who's saying what, and the actors were freaking out. They're like, "What the hell's this? This is happening to me? Why? Why is this happening?" And they walked around and had to walk it off and come back down and keep reading. They couldn't believe how bad it was.
Yeah, Varys threw on the field, the guy playing Varys threw his script into the middle of the table, folded his arms, and just sat back in his chair. He was so mad.
Varys, one of the best characters I remember from the show. Yeah.
Art is all about expressing yourself. Or partly, it's about expressing yourself and having an idea and rolling with it with your creative vision. But if you don't also design your product with a target market in mind...
Oh, you said product.
You wouldn't expect to have one.
Also, construct it with care. Don't construct when you construct a book, you have to construct it with care. Not just say, just this happens. No, you have to understand and conform to the storytelling. You don't necessarily have to conform to the whims of, well, I want this in the book. I want this in the book. I want this in the book. There's only so much I can do. I need to write the story. I will try to write a coherent narrative, but I can't totally change the story based on the whims of everybody. I can't please everybody. Everybody's going to have their different preferences, but I have to conform to good storytelling to make sense.
It's very simple. You have art. You want to make art. Okay, great. You can make a painting, but you got to pay for the paint. You got to pay for the brushes. You got to pay for the canvas. Even if you can't afford that, you got to pay for something. Even okay, so you're not, you're trying to make something for free. It's not going to be a movie. You need product. You need materials that have financial value to them. You need people to either agree to do something for a personal reason or for a career-based reason as a favor, or you need to pay them. At that point, it is a business because it needs a return, unless it's some sort of project that's already funded. But where does that come from? It has to come from somewhere. at the end of the day, if you're making a product, like what Voice said, not art that's just made for art's sake, that requires assistance and getting people to work with you, you better have a product and not just a piece of art. And that's why fans are awesome, because they are almost like a guarantee that somebody's going to show up to buy your product, or at least look at it. And yet, these people who haven't ever made anything on their own, that are taking these fan loved intellectual properties, let's call them, stories or whatever, they feel entitled to the same viewership and the same success while making art that does not respect the audience. That's just whatever the person that's taking over wants to make. And they expect the product that's a financial product to do as well. That doesn't fly in any other like world except for the specific artistic critical world that's on YouTube and on the internet right now. These are the only people that are saying, and for some reason people listen to them. That's the most maddening part, that this art is not a product and that art is not objective and that it's all it's like, imagine somebody, you're like 8 years old, you're playing one of those superhero games, right? Everybody's imagining that they're a superhero. You're all running around with your friends, or it's Naruto game time or whatever, and you're like, hey, I got this ice power. I hit the guy with the ice. And then you start fighting each other. And there's always at least one kid that's always like, you're like, all right, I got you with the ice beam. And they're like, no, you didn't. You didn't do it. You didn't get me with the ice beam. And they're like, all right, fine. Then Tony over there hit you with the fireball. And you're like, nope, I'm invincible to fireballs. I'm invincible.
Yeah, they call it the Mary Sue.
Yeah. So basically what I'm saying is that the people that are writing the criticism and the people that are the diversity hires, or they got coffee for Spielberg, or they slept with somebody or whatever, they're the Mary Sues of reality. And they're being catered to by people that are like their handlers. Like people take these Mary Sue people and they go, oh, you're this, this, and this. So that means that we can get away with creating a substandard product and just attack the fans. It's a symbiotic relationship between untalented hacks and people that are financially looking to exploit things.
Or their daddy who owned Goldman Sachs bought their way onto the show.
Right. And by the way, you can't hit me with your ice beams because I'm invincible.
Of course you are. You are a strawman cowboy.
I am Super Saiyan level whatever above yours, so you can't beat me because this is a game of imagination, and my imagination is the best. So
I was going to make a joke about Iceman or
but you're gay.
Dr. Freeze or whatever's that. But I have no heart.
I have no heart.
I have no heart.
Let's cook some ice.
Some ice.
Ice is nice.
All right, let's keep going.
Challenges art confronts, and sometimes art disappoints. No one wants to be disappointed, but disappointment is a valid part of the human condition. And
okay, here we go. We're getting this weird philosophy that art is somehow part of life, and life is disappointment, so you better get used to it. It's like, this is some weird Swami shit that has nothing to do with the argument.
We can't say this is terrible and like do better. That's so asinine. If we were to do that with anything else, like furniture, technology,
we wouldn't get better. Everything just sucks. Get used to it. That's life.
Yep.
Like even like Alex Shaw and his idiocy said, the theme of The Last Jedi is get used to disappointment. And that somehow that works. The fact that I was disappointed, which is part of its charm. It's like, no. Disappointment means that you were expecting something good and you got something terrible in return instead. That's the definition.
Yeah, he seems to mix up disappointment with something not so bad. We're not talking about something not so bad. We're talking something that's really bad. Like the opposite of what we should have gotten. Not to say that you can't have old man Luke in The Last Jedi or whomever. It's you get something which is negative, the opposite of what you should have gotten, which was an entertaining, epic space opera fantasy. Instead of having some weird nihilistic message about pain is good or failure is important or something. I don't know.
It's like people celebrating. It's so bizarre because it's people. You like Star Wars. You like all this stuff. Here's a story about how all of the stuff that you like is not good. Basically, is wrong. Here's how you're wrong. It's like what is it the actually meme where it's the big fat nerd guy. Yeah. That's what The Last Jedi feels like. That guy wrote The Last Jedi.
I remember really funny stuff, not myself, but my brother who went to, he was an English major, and he would write poems that, I actually hate poetry. So he actually turned me on to poetry. So I was impressed, because I never read the American poets, but he introduced me to some. And he wrote a poem about Romeo and Juliet, and I didn't understand it at all, because it was so nuanced, and you had to be someone who studied and knew Romeo and Juliet and the time period in Italy at the time to know what all these references were. And when you read those lines, they sounded like a normal poem, they rhymed, etc. But there was so much references and nuance and clever use of language that you'd have to be a professor to appreciate it. So there's the element of saying, wow, you know what, this is so specific, it's so niche that only someone could criticize that properly. But to the average audience who doesn't really like poetry like me, I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's a nice poem. And that's when you learn about there's hidden meaning and stuff with reference, because you have all this knowledge, you have all this lore of what Romeo and Juliet or Shakespeare was. Now you compare that to The Last Jedi, and you use lore like a garbage fire. I can't wait to destroy this lore. It's like, wait, no, that's not a story. That's not poetic. That's trampling on people's desires and expectations. For what? So you could watch the fire? Because you
cheap laugh.
Yeah. For what? Because you're getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to make you're using $100 million budget to use one of the biggest movie franchises ever? That's silly.
Or you it's cultural of all time.
You are so cutting out, Dunn. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Or you basically created the world, one of the biggest lands in history, an expensive film school, and then you say what is an expensive film school to you, a room full of writers.
I do think that there is that niche writer's room sort of talk that you would possibly get at like an English major or writer's club or that sort of thing. But it's devoid of actual understanding of what makes a thing good, and more like, oh, this is a nuanced idea I didn't think of yet. That might be good, as opposed to, let's say, a Fight Club reference, where that is an actual nuanced idea about humanity that you weren't expecting. And you don't need a writer's room to do that. You just need an individual to experience something like that and to think up that idea, and then to have a clever way of putting that onto paper and then eventually a movie. There's a big difference between that sort of art house innovative film technique and a big budget motion picture where it is a big machine and there's a formula. If you don't follow that formula, like a recipe, you're going to screw things up.
Art is going to reflect that, whether intentionally or not. Hating a movie is okay. I'd even go as far as to say it's essential sometimes, and it's important to accept this. Which is not to say you should just happily consume any and every piece of media that falls your way. If you really hated Mass Effect 3 or The Last Jedi, or any other piece of media...
And what was this whole video about then?
Yeah, what the heck? He's like, oh, don't worry about it. Disappointment's fine, but you could also hate things. It's like, what?
The stuff, the arguments have been telling you for the last 13 minutes or so? All meaningless, and I'm going to contradict it right here. That's not to say you should be just eating everything blindly. Yes, it is. You've been saying that for 10 minutes, 10 plus minutes. It's exactly what you've been saying.
He's trying to cover what he said because what he said was ridiculous, but in covering it, he's undermined the whole point of this video.
I guess we're supposed to infer for ourselves how what he said and that statement were. It's okay to hate things. That doesn't mean you just blindly eat everything. It's supposed to somehow connect and exist side by side. I guess we're supposed to make that inference because he didn't.
You don't have to. What was it? You don't have to accept
disappointment.
No. You don't have to accept everything that comes your way if you don't like it, but you should accept disappointment and just move on and stop expecting people to do anything about it.
This is just my opinion about BS.
My God.
Yeah.
I think it's because of the fact that BioWare did not actually fix things. And he says, well, that's how the industry works. It's like, yeah, and that's why it needs to change. That's why you need actually creative people to work on projects, not producers who are full of themselves.
Or
because it's art, it can be shit. That's what I hear. It can be bad, it can be poorly made, but because it's art, because we categorize it in our brains.
Yeah, it's some weird
it's
subjective thing that can be anything at once. It's like, yeah, this doesn't mean it's going to be any worthwhile thing to experience.
It's like, okay, well then what's the point of you saying anything at all then? Just don't say anything.
Yeah.
If your only argument is shut up everybody because okay, wait a minute. So don't tell the people to make the Snyder Cut, which clearly worked, and now there is a Snyder Cut. They put money into it. Don't do that because you might actually get what you want. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and get used to disappointment when you consume it, I think.
And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. If you want to be disappointed a second time, which is what I think is going to happen, more power to you. They get what they want. Everybody gets what they want. The only person that doesn't get what they want is me because I don't want any of this. But I'm not going to tell you not to do that shit because what? It's you're a fan of Zack Snyder. Of course you want some more Zack Snyder stuff. I want more George Lucas Star Wars. It'd be hypocritical for me to say you can't fight for it.
I personally like to see theatrical, a little bit of touch up, and by their logic, I can just make a stick figure and hold it up and say, this is equally good as the Mona Lisa. And they would totally eat that up. Because it's like, that's my artistic expression.
I want to see them reenact the ending of Rogue One and the beginning of A New Hope, but it's Lucasfilm and it's real life.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
That's specific.
Constructive things you can do with that emotion. Discuss the thing with your friends. Comment on message boards. Write a critique. Write fan fiction. Hell, make your own movie if you're really inspired. Or you can make a YouTube video complaining about the thing on the internet. Nothing wrong with that. If you don't like pickles, you should absolutely say so.
You just had a whole video
Just don't
about
think
how
that
all
means
that
you
stuff
own
was
a
bad.
better burger.
You're not owed pickles on your burger, even though it's advertising pickles.
You are owed pickles on your. If you ask for pickles on your burger and you're paying for pickles on your burger, you are owed pickles on your burger. Okay, if you buy a car, you expect it to be running with an engine and everything. Okay, you're owed certain things when you conduct in business as a customer and as a creator.
Can you imagine if this applied to other stuff? It's like you go to get your you go to get your oil changed, and then when you show up, they like bedazzled your car. They're like, I didn't ask for that. You're like, shut up, bigot.
You didn't ask for this. You didn't want this.
Honestly, to analogy, because I hate pickles. In that analogy, I would be like, "Oh, good, you removed the thing I hated. Thank you. I didn't need to ask for this. Thank you."
Do whatever you want in response to a film, but don't expect anything to be done about it.
Oh, they are going to do something about it because they want money. They don't care about anything else.
Well, I'm sorry to say, whatever your name is, the person who made this video, Eyebrow Cinema, but we're winning. You're losing, okay? You are losing. You're losing this little war of yours. That critique and fan, the whims of the fans, they're starting to be listened to more and more again. Sorry about that, but we're winning.
Fandom menace will take over.
Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod.
Kneel before Zod, yes.
It's a terrible life lesson. Do whatever you want, but don't expect anything to come from it.
Yeah, that's a bad.
Yeah,
Listen to Tyler.
the era of just taking and swallowing down disappointment and just dealing with it is over. Okay, kneel before Zod. The fans are being listened to again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all on board that.
I agree. Like, I don't have a fan base exactly. I just have a few people that occasionally buy my. Like, I would like to have a fan base so that I can be like, oh, can I have your feedback on that? Where do you think idea for? I would love to have that.
It is a complicated dance, and that's what we should be learning. Is that there is a look? I am sure, 100% sure, that almost every single successful artist has gotten to a point where they have to ask themselves, am I doing this to please the fans, or am I doing this for myself? And then they come to the conclusion, healthily, well, I'm doing it for myself, but also I've set up something that is something that fans expect. And then if I give up on that, I should hand it over to somebody else to do, or I should tell people it's over, or let somebody else create their version of it. But if you're, if Linus Torvalds, who write, the Linux kernel writers and all these people decided, you know what, screw this project that we've been working on. We're done with Unix. We're done with GNU. We're done with all of these technical aspects that we've built over the last 30 years. We're switching over to MS-DOS now. Everyone would be absolutely apoplectic. They'd be just off the rocker angry because it wouldn't make any sense. It would go against everything that they stood for, and it would break so many different things. Now, that's programming and software, and people would say, oh yeah, of course. As program, if it executes improperly, it's going to break and it's going to blue screen, or it's going to shut down, or the computer overheats, or any number of things. But for some reason, this doesn't apply to art, especially commercial art. Just for some reason. I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear Mr. Daniel Simpson explain that.
Wow. One thing that made me think of is actually Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson over the Wheel of Time series, and everybody universally agrees those are the best books in the series. But he admitted that he likes having beta readers, and so he asked Great McDougall, the editor and wife of Robert Jordan, original author, for to use beta readers on Towers of Midnight, the second book. He felt like it was a little bit rocky. Gathering Storm, the first book, taking it over from. It's kind of an example of the fans very used to give back on tone to the character.
Yeah, you need your fan base, or at least the people you trust, not editors specifically for books, and say, hey, you're a harsh critic of me, you're my best friend, but you're unbiased when it comes to writing. What do you think? Does this work? And these are the guys, whether it's a writing circle or your peanut gallery, whatever you want to call these guys, they're the ones who are going to give you the best suggestions, because either they don't care, or they say, hey, you know what? I can say whatever I want to you. You're my buddy. You won't take it personally. And you could bash the crap out of the smallest of details to focus a story as best as possible. So you need that peanut gallery on top of your editors to tell you where you're screwing up. And that's quality control is very important to any product. So whether it's in software or a movie, you need these checks. And if you don't have criticism after the fact, then you don't know what you've done wrong. Anyway, I think we've exhausted ourselves here, guys. Nice, hot, sunny Thursday evening. Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for tuning in.
This was garbage.
Well, this was good because it talked about Mass Effect, and I like Mass Effect, and it talked about movies.
Right.
And movies are good.
Right.
So, very strange message at the end there. But that was very similar to Maggie May and her diatribe of 2 minutes that just hurt my brain for longer than 2 minutes. I just sat there in awe.
She's a piece of work. She's our movie, the big EFAB nemesis.
I dare say I might want to watch another just for the sake of it, just to see how she thinks things through with popular fiction, just to see what her opinions are on things that should be pretty clear to everyone else, but are much different in her eyes. So,
her Good Daddies one.
Oh boy, I don't know if we want to do a second one, Daddy. Oh, I think the first Daddy was more than enough. But if anyone has any other suggestions, which may or may not be Maggie May, please leave them in the comments below or join the Discord. Come to the suggestions channel, leave your idea. Whether it's a blog post or a YouTube video, we're always happy to take a gander. Special thanks to Glib for popping in late, but better than never. We have a LiteratureDevil, we have Dunn. Shiny was here, but he couldn't take the pain. And I think he exhausted his talk on Doctor Who, and he was very disappointed. We couldn't have another British meltdown over what is happening to the Whodom these modern times.
I've not heard what's happening. What's happening now?
Oh, I have no idea. Don't forget I brought it up. But thanks for joining us as well, Voice. I do appreciate a second British fellow to argue about fish and chips and Big Ben sizes and all sorts of other fun stuff.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Compare Big Ben sizes.
Since Shaq isn't here on behalf of him.
Yes, on behalf of all Great Britain. Thank you, sir.
Does he say fuck what or fuckwit? I forget.
Well,
he says fuckwit.
Fuckwit.
Yes.
There we
go.
And no Marmite jokes. I'm impressed. Shiny resigned himself to leaving sooner than he got a Marmite joke in there, so that was new. But thanks everyone for joining. Have yourself a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.